Here's more. Welcome to the February 24th, 2026 regular meeting of the Board of Supervisors. Okay, we're gonna start over. Good morning. Welcome to the February 24th, 2026 regular meeting of the Calaveras County Board of Supervisors. Everyone, please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll move right to staff announcements. Jason. Or
Good morning.
Lisa.
Lisa Medina, Environmental Management Agency, and Shauna, and this is Mila. So Mila is a Spay German Shepherd mix, I would like to say. She's about 8 years old and weighs about 51 pounds. Mia was found as a stray in Burson and was severely underweight and very scruffy. She's not much so more. She's filled out. She's very happy and she loves humans. She came to us very frightened, and she's an older pup, so she's going to need some more loveys and some extra care in her older age. But she also has a survival instinct, and she's come to enjoy humans and especially ear rubs. She loves to play ball and loves to play especially with the water from the hose. She passed all her behavioral tests, but still does a little resource guarding, which means that she kind of asserts her ownership over her food bowl or toys. Thus, we'll need probably a home without small children. If you are interested in an older pup in this older gal, please contact us. And of course, if you have another pup, please, a meet and greet is required. Thank you, Shauna. Thanks, Mia.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you. I have one more announcement.
All right.
She was a little anxious.
Hey,
Wanted to get her.
we're here.
Thank you, Shauna.
What's in the bag?
She was a little anxious, so I wanted to get her out of here. So our first free focus rabies vaccine and microchip clinic of the year will be held on Saturday, March 14th from 9 to 11:30. The clinic will be held here at the Government Center. Dr. Mike Hayes will be donating his precious time along with our partners from Focus, volunteers, and our CCAS staff. Let's make it a goal to make sure all our pups and cats in Calaveras County are vaccinated this year. In 2025, we vaccinated 201 cats, and that would have been a sight to see, and 564 pups that received free rabies vaccines. More upcoming clinics will be held on April 11th, May 16th, June 13th, September 12th, and October 10th. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Jennifer, Ms. Cashy.
Morning, board. Jennifer Cashy, Director of Integrated Waste. First, excuse my casual appearance in your boardroom. I'm heading out to the field right after this, so I apologize. But I did wanted to just let your board know that we were awarded the Clean California grant for just under $300,000. So that will support our recycling days. And I've also included a green waste program within these recycling days. So there'll be green waste amnesty events going on simultaneously at our existing sites. So be looking for more information coming early, spring going into summer, but we will look at having the same 6 events, same locations as we have previously.
Thank you. Monica, Micah, Eminem.
Good morning, Board Chair and Board of Supervisors. Just wanted to give a quick briefing on Public Works efforts and regarding the recent storm events as an update. Beginning on Monday, February 16th, Public Works crews began snow plowing operations for all 17 plow zones in the Dorrington, Arnold, and West Point areas. Our department deployed its entire fleet of 27 pieces of equipment consisting of loader-mounted blowers, loaders with wing plows, graders, large Class A dump trucks, pickup snow plows, backhoes, fuel trucks, and tow rigs. This effort consisted of an around-the-clock operation, deploying all operations and resources that are available. As plowing efforts began and as the weather continued to become more severe, plowing operations became more challenging, and crews had to contend with several factors contributing to the decline in the efficiency of our plowing operations. These factors included poor communication from PG&E on their efforts to clear downed power lines, providing plowed access to several water district facilities to repair and maintain critical water infrastructure, assist PG&E crews with plowed access to several staging areas as efforts ramped up to restore power. Also, plow crews were called upon to assist with fire and EMS extrications for emergency response and evacuations. Severe weather, downed trees, and down power lines hindered operations with added layers of complexity to our efforts as coordination to remove trees tangled in power lines became more problematic due to safety concerns and coordination with PG&E. By Thursday, February 19th, our progress was impacted significantly as roads became impassable due to heavy snow accumulation and overwhelming amounts of power line conflicts. By Friday, February 20th, Dorrington received approximately 88 inches of snow, and the Arnold community received 58 inches of snow. PG&E had reported several hundred down power lines or down power poles and over 9,500 customers without power. As a result of these impacts to operations and the heavy accumulation of snow, our smaller equipment became ineffective, limiting us to only our larger equipment and significantly reducing the level of our effort. By Friday, February 20th, PG&E began making progress on power restoration and has been working diligently with our team to clear down power lines, poles, trees, and to provide access to plow equipment. Crews continued to plow through the weekend to make progress in areas that were being made accessible. By Monday, February 23rd, the Department of Public Works had received over 20 disabled or abandoned vehicles blocking our county roadways, 157 power line conflicts with downed trees, 300 downed trees within the county roadway blocking roadways. Crews and staff have dedicated over 3,000 hours of man hours and counting to this effort. Significant progress was made yesterday with much of the obstructions being cleared and the majority of roads have become impassable. Our team remains dedicated to continuing this effort until all obstructions have been cleared and all roads are fully plowed. With weather conditions transitioning to rain, our roads will likely become icy, increasing safety concerns to the motoring public. As we are not out of the clear yet, our department urges the public to take all necessary precautions to preserve protected property from flooding. All sandbag locations have been fully stocked and resources are available on a first-come, first-served basis. Please refer to the Public Works page on the County Calaveras website for additional information and resources. Thank you.
Busy week.
Very busy.
How many down power line incidents in the roads, you said?
Yeah, we had 157 power line conflicts with down trees. And we had over 300 down trees within the county right away.
I've seen PG&E diligently working to get those untangled.
That PG&E had 600 downed power poles.
Actually, Chair, can I ask a quick?
Yeah,
question?
absolutely, sir.
Holly said something to me as we were walking in. Would you mind repeating what you told me about your husband?
My husband works for PG&E and he says this is the worst they've seen since Butte fire, maybe even worse, just because of all the power lines and everything. And Arnold is the worst thing over in the Amador, but they're still really
Yeah.
bad. So he's there. PG&E is really working. They have so many crews coming up and really trying to help and fix everything.
Thanks. That's it in a nutshell. Thank you for the work that you've
Yeah.
done. And it wasn't easy and there were a lot and still not going to be with the cleanup. But I really thank you for hanging in there and you know, adjusting as the conditions change and getting it work and pushing through to get to at least where we are now. So
Yeah.
thank you.
And go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, and I have Monica here with me. She's really kind of been the linchpin of this whole operation. She's our development services specialist, but she also works as our dispatcher during emergency events such as this. She's been working nonstop since the storm began,
Yeah.
coordinating all the public inquiries, coordination with PG&E, dispatching our crews where they need to go. So she's been a tremendous support in
And
this
through the
effort. And I
night.
wanted to make sure.
Through the night, I texted through the night. So thank
Yeah.
you so much for all.
A few passing conversations with the crews out in the field, just momentarily while they're trying to get a wink of sleep, you know, and they're doing 16-hour days. and they're barely getting those 8 hours in between to rest and everything. And, it's, they're stretched. So, I mean, we appreciate all the work that the crews have done.
No, thank you. We appreciate the support of the board and the patience of the public and working through us.
Chair, if I may,
Yes.
I just wanted to echo my coworker. Thank you for all of your hard work around the clock, for your communication, and for the crews. I also ran into a lot of them out there and they're exhausted and pushing through. And thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dispatch doesn't stop.
Good morning, Chair, members of the
Mr.
board. Doug
Oliver.
Oliver, Chief Building Official. Just a public announcement, as of yesterday morning, the building department was activated to provide damage assessment and safety assessments for the affected area of the storms. We've currently completed 20 inspections yesterday. We did have a lot of terrain issues and road blockages, so we have 2 units currently going up the hill. Any inspections wherein we can reach in front of the building, we are providing safety placards. If any individual finds a green, yellow, or red placard on their building, they will provide instructions. We are also providing information on how to obtain necessary permits or reach the assessor's office for any catastrophic claims. If any individual has questions about the placard they have on their house, they can contact our front counter at 209-754-6390. Otherwise, this is a voluntary phone line that we just stood up for those who want to report damage to their building. So that number is 209-754-6380. They can leave their address, report damage, and we will send out a team to go do that assessment and document that damage. We hope to have all of the assessments done by the end of Thursday, but it seems like when we go out to one reported damage, we find 3 more. So we're gonna have everybody out there. Right after I'm done with this meeting, I'll be joining my teams. So if there's any questions or you receive any information, please let us know. Thank you.
They're hopefully by Thursday, but with rain sitting on top of the snow, Doug, that weight goes up, so it could get worse.
We can hope for the best. And
We can hope
plan
for the best.
worst.
Yes. Yeah, right. Absolutely. And also, if one of those red slips on your building, it doesn't look good, but at the same time, it can help you facilitate going in with insurance and claims when it comes to storm damage and everything in the future.
Well, yeah, and that's a good point. I want to bring up something very important to the public, that in that environment, as cold as it is, and the amount of snow, we are seeing some interesting damages that aren't readily apparent to the homeowner. If they see a red tag on the building, but the building looks fine, don't just assume you can go in, read a tag. If there's a propane leak in this weather, the propane hugs the ground. We are seeing it pooling 2 buildings over around where there has been plowing. If you see a red tag on your home and you smell propane, it may not be your propane. Don't go in the building. Contact the fire department if it hasn't been reported. Make sure that the fire department gives you a clearance to enter your own property. Don't use any electronics or any open flame devices until you are certain that that hazard has been passed. So that we're seeing that in a couple of areas. Just be very careful.
Thank you, Doug.
Okay, appreciate it.
Morning, board. Loree Durham, assessor. And as Doug said, Doug's been helping us give out calamity reassessment forms out in the field. You can contact our office at 209-754-6356 if you want to obtain that form. Also on our website, the calamity form is available. We'll be doing another mailing out once we get the list regarding all the claims. And if you have $10,000 worth of damage, you could, for relief of property taxes of value.
Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, we'll bring it back to proclamations, Stacy.
Proclamations. The clerk of the Board of Supervisors proclaimed the month of February 2026 as Civil Grand Jury Month or Civil Grand Jury Awareness Month in Calaveras County.
Mr. Toffenelli.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A couple of meetings ago, Amanda read a couple of proclamations. And she brought up that she was going to do it the way Marita did it. And basically Marita would go down to the podium and read it right there with the person or the organization the proclamation was for. And so I thought about this and, I served one term a long time ago with Tom Tryon. And I thought, well, she's going to put Marita there and do the way Marita is. I thought I would read this proclamation the way Tom Tryon would read this proclamation. So with that being said, the way Tom would do it is, Marita, read this.
Well done, sir.
Whereas every year in each of the California 58 counties, 19 ordinary citizens take an oath to voluntarily serve a term of 1 year as grand jurors. And whereas Calaveras County, one of the original 27 counties of the state, was organized at the 1849-1850 session of the California State Legislature. Whereas the grand jury is an independent investigative body, operationally separated from the entities and officials they investigate. The grand jurors are officers of the court under the guidance of the Calaveras County Superior Court presiding judge. And whereas the grand jury exists through the dedication of people and they decide what areas of local government they are going to investigate or review during the year. One of the most important functions of the grand jury is to review the operations of the officers, departments, and agencies of local government and special districts. And whereas the grand jury investigative process may or may not result in reports. Those fact-finding reports identify specific problems and provide recommendations for governmental improvement and or identify Whereas the grand jury is recognized for their dedicated service volunteering to make Calaveras County governmental entities more efficient for the best interest of the entire community. And with that, I will bring it back to the board. Is there any board comments? Is there any public comment? Are there any online? No.
There is no online public
Okay.
comment, but did you?
I will bring it back. Oh, sorry.
Sorry. I'm the president of the Calaveras Mother Lode Grand Jury chapter. We support in any way the grand jury, whatever their needs are, whatever they request. And in addition, we support the judge in any way that he requests. Additionally, we go out and we educate the community. We try to promote what the grand jury is all about, and we try to do some recruiting in addition to that. We have members currently of our chapter. If you'd stand, is there any grand jury members here? Would you please stand? This is all of the members that reach out to the community and serve the community. And I'd like to have them recognized. There's 19 that are on the grand jury. And then our Mother Lode chapter has about 10 members. And we work together to ensure that things move forward and correctly. Anything else you would like to say?
Come on, speak.
Brenda?
Only that, my name is Brenda McHenry. I was on the 1920s grand jury. I just want to stress the process of recruitment that we try to follow to get more people interested in the grand jury, because it's a really wonderful way to get to know your county. sometimes you even learn things you didn't want to know about your family. But that's a good thing because we can make a difference. And that's all I think.
Thank you. You want to speak?
I'm a member of the sitting member of the grand jury, and I just wanted to thank the Board of Supervisors for this recognition and thank county admin for their support as well. And just say that we are uniquely privileged as Californians to have this civil watchdog function of the grand jury written into our constitution. It's also just a fascinating opportunity to learn about how your county government and your local districts work. So it means a lot to the sitting grand jury to get this recognition and know that their performing of their duties is appreciated. So we appreciate that as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else?
No.
Okay, I'll bring it back to the board. Are there any board comments or motion?
I would, with making a motion, I would also like to thank the people that are involved with the grand jury. You know, it helps provide transparency. In some events, you know, you do open a can of worms that, you know, and provide a path for fixing. At the same time, sometimes you put things to rest that, you know, could or not have been done. So, you know, taking the time and devotion to your community is something that comes from my heart. So I appreciate the time that you give to the community. With that, that's my question.
Is there a second?
I'll second. Oh, sorry.
Oh, you want to say?
Yeah, my light's been on. I just want to say to what you guys said, I was on the grand jury for 4 years, had 4 years on it. It was split up, but it is a great opportunity and people don't understand or realize it. A lot of people don't until they get involved in it, that it is a great opportunity to learn about your government and how it works and learn your county. It was very beneficial to me when I ran for supervisor because I had the acknowledgement of how things work and what's going on. So you really, if you're interested, you really should. If they send out an invitation to you, respond to the invitation and get involved because you learn a lot that you don't really know before, and it's a good thing. So thank you guys for doing it.
Any other comment, Martin?
I was going to say thank you, and I'll second the motion.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 5-0. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the Board of Supervisors of Calaveras County, State of California, does hereby designate the month of February 2026 to be declared the Civil Grand Jury Month in Calaveras County and to encourage citizen participation in the grand jury process. Thank you.
Thank you. Very good.
And with everyone that's here, if you consider coming up and accepting that and getting a picture.
Mark, Donnie Widow was on the grand jury. He was like, he's showing. What year were you on?
But you're still in
Ready? 1, 2. Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Well, yeah.
Come on.
You want to forget service, yeah.
Thank you, Martin. Okay.
When you're ready, Stacy.
Item 2, proclamation, Clerk of the Board of Supervisors, adopt a proclamation recognizing Nancy Whittle in celebration of Women's History Month.
Mr. Hubbard.
Thank you, Chair. This is a long proclamation for an extraordinary woman, and I'm very honored to read it. Whereas Women's History Month provides an opportunity to recognize and celebrate women whose lives and service have strengthened our communities and shaped our local history. And whereas Nancy Whittle was born Nancy Marie Bartu on June 15th, 1937, in a family home on Main Street in Angels Camp, California. To her father, Theodore Roosevelt Barney, nicknamed Barney, and her mother, Marguerite Wooster Bartu, as the youngest of 3 children, continuing a family legacy deeply rooted in Calaveras County since the gold rush era of the 1840s. And whereas during World War II, Nancy's father relocated to San Francisco to work in the shipyards to support his family, while her mother moved with the children to Sheep Ranch, where limited employment opportunities for women led for her to serve as a teacher. And whereas Nancy received her primary education in a one-room schoolhouse in Sheep Ranch, taught by her mother, an experience that instilled in her lifelong appreciation for education, resilience, and public service. And whereas Nancy graduated from Calaveras High School at the age of 16 as valedictorian of her class, and went on to attend the all-girls Mills College in Oakland on full academic scholarship, earning a degree in liberal arts. And whereas on July 18th, 1959, Nancy married local cattleman Donnie Whittle. And together they raised a family of 4 sons while maintaining strong ties to agriculture, education, and community service. Somebody came into the museum the other day and brought this picture. And this is the Whittle family. I need the names, but my understanding is it was also taken by Ansel Adams, which is pretty remarkable. Whereas Nancy dedicated herself to education by teaching English and home economics at Bret Harte High School and later returning to her alma mater, Calaveras High School, to further her teaching career. And whereas Nancy partnered with her husband and his uncle, Winter and Gladys Whittle, to develop Bighorn Mobile Home Park in Angels Camp, creating a community of 188 home sites that continue to serve residents of Calaveras County. And whereas Nancy demonstrated exemplary civic leadership throughout her service on the Mark Twain Union Elementary School District Board in the 1970s, the Calaveras County Planning Commission in 1974, and as a member of the Calaveras County Board of Supervisors from 1976 to 1980, becoming the first woman elected to that office in county history. And whereas during her tenure and beyond, Nancy was a prominent supporter of the New Melones Reservoir Project, organizing grassroots community efforts to ensure the reservoir was filled for the long-term benefit of the region. And whereas during her tenure and beyond, Nancy was a prominent supporter, whereas Nancy helped establish the Dave Capello Scholarship Program and continues to administer it today, providing meaningful financial support to graduating students at both Bret Harte High School and Calaveras High School. And whereas together with her husband, Nancy established Angelus Reynus 4-H, the first 4-H program in Calaveras County, fostering leadership, responsibility, and agricultural education amongst local youth. And whereas Nancy earned her real estate broker's license and in 1993 co-founded Vintage Realty with Janet Kuslich, serving the real estate needs of Calaveras County for more than 2 decades. And whereas Nancy continues to manage Whittle Ranch, Inc., alongside her husband, overseeing a family enterprise encompassing beef cattle and farming operations, and she holds the distinction of being the first woman elected president of the Calaveras County Cattlemen's Association. And whereas throughout her life, Nancy Whittle has exemplified dedication to family, agriculture, education, and public service as a devoted wife, mother, grandmother, and great-grandmother, leaving a lasting legacy for future generations of Calaveras County residents. Thank you so much. With that, I'll open it to public comment.
Thank you, Board. I do want to make a couple of comments. One thing, I never felt
discriminated against. Jack Fisher from Valley Springs, I sat next to him. He was a longtime supervisor. He kind of mentored me. But I just decided politics was not my thing. Our family business is the best thing we could ever be in. And I want to thank my family for supporting me and the board for this honor. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment? Come on. Okay, I'll bring it back to the board.
I'm not gonna make a motion. I'll leave that to possibly one of the good ladies here. I don't know. But with that, you've set the bar high for many to aspire to with your dedication to the community and your heart for home. So I just want to say thank you for everything you've done for Calaveras County and giving us something to look towards to build on in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy, for everything you've done. I know Autumn and I would not be here today if it wasn't for you paving that road. So thank you for your dedication.
Autumn herself wouldn't be there if it wasn't for you.
With that, I'll make a motion.
I will. Amanda wouldn't be there for us. I will second it and say thank you, Nancy, for everything you've done in this county. Thank you so much. And moving forward, you have a lot more to work on.
Thank you.
So I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the Calaveras County Board of Supervisors, why can't I speak today? The Calaveras County Board of Supervisors hereby honors and recognizes Nancy Whittle during Women's History Month, celebrating her historic achievements, pioneering leadership, and enduring contributions to the civic, educational, agricultural, and cultural life of Calaveras County. In witness whereof, the Calaveras County Board of Supervisors has caused this proclamation to be adopted this 24th day of February 2026 and encourages all residents to join in recognizing and celebrating the remarkable legacy of Nancy Whittle.
Thank you.
No, I'm gonna get a picture. Thank you, Nancy. No, I'm gonna fit.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. Martin, head over. There we go. 1, 2, 3.
Okay, hold on just a second.
Melissa.
Okay, got it.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Martin, yes, he has it right down front. Your grandfather, okay. It's right here. Take good care. Thank you.
Thank you.
You guys sticking around for us to
take a picture of Van and. No, we're.
Oh, 1967. I was in there in 1996 or 7, sure. I didn't know it was part of the city.
And it's.
I didn't realize it was a little bit. I saw the rest.
That was quite the extended family.
Yes.
Ms. Simpson, public comment.
Any item of interest to the public that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board and is not posted on the consent or regular agendas may be addressed during the public comment period. California law prohibits the board from taking action on any matter which is not posted on the agenda unless it is determined to be an emergency by the Board of Supervisors. If public comment is completed before the 30-minute allotted time period, the board may immediately move to the next order of business. If public comment is not completed during the allotted time period, it will be continued as the last item of business in order to provide an opportunity for the remainder of comments to be heard.
Thank you, Ms. Simpson. Sir?
My name is Dan Tulifani. I am the owner of the Camp Connell General Store. I'm going into my 10th year of ownership. My parents owned it 40 years before me. So about 50 years between all of us. I'm here for basically the reasons of snow removal. Talked to Mr. Huberty about it numerous times. Yesterday, we had what we call a unicorn sighting. Unicorns, as you know, are mythical creatures. We call it the unicorn sighting because Public Works snow removal truck actually showed up for the first time in the entire snow debacle that we had. Now, I'm not here to create any kind of animosity between us and Public Works. I realize mistakes were made. There was a lot of equipment on the side of the road. There were down power lines, down trees. Totally understand that. But I'm here because we used to give these out. Can I distribute one of these? Maybe you guys aren't familiar with these. Is that okay? Let me just take them. It says winter in Calaveras County. I'll just read it into the record here. Snowplow operations, snow depth 3 inches on roadways in Arnold, West Point, Glencoe, Avery, Railroad Flat, and Mountain Ranch. 2 inches on roadways in Camp Connell. That did not happen. It has not happened for years. I'm not just here because of this year. I'm here because of several years of the unicorn sighting. Once in a while, we get it. Yesterday, the snowplow truck came through. And the only reason we actually had the county road operative was because Mr. Greg Chess Mountain Services across the way. And I've talked to Mr. Huberty about this, especially when emergencies are operating. There's only 2 snow removal places. There's the Snyder's and Mr. Chess Mountain Services. And for Public Works to not have these guys under some kind of contract is just, it blows my mind, because here these guys have a fleet of trucks and they always are maintaining them. Public Works, they've got a truck from the 1970s that smokes like crazy. And I know it smokes like crazy because I was behind it on Sierra Parkway, driving up, bringing a friend back. Camp Connell General Store was only open because Mr. Chess helped me to keep it open. And people came into that store and they were They were so appreciative because they didn't have water and they didn't have
Sir,
food.
I appreciate it. We're gonna have this item later. If you have the time to stick around so we can talk about it
I will.
in person, but we have 3 minutes, so I'm just gonna stick to that and I appreciate your comment.
Good morning, board. I do have flyers to pass out as well. Helping you get your steps in today. Thank you so much. Nice to see you guys again. For those of you who don't remember, my name is Mia Huss. I am with the Resource Connection Childcare Resource and Referral. I wanted to share our 24th annual Calaveras Children's Fair with you guys. It is scheduled for Saturday, April 11th from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Bret Harte High School track in Angels. We're very excited to have it at Bret Harte this year. We like to move it around every once in a while and pull different people from the county. As you guys know, topography here, we just try to get everyone, especially the upcountry folk. But if you guys aren't familiar with our event, we provide this all-day free event for families and children to come and just celebrate the wonderful community that we have here in Calaveras. The theme, as you can see, is Color Our Community. That is an ode to the amazing work that everyone in this community does and just the loving atmosphere that we all cherish and provide here in Calaveras. I just encourage you to come out and spend the day with us, come visit, even if it's not for the full hours that we have, just come see the wonderful community. Last year, we had over 700 individuals attend and everyone gets free lunch. They meet amazing resources from local nonprofits and organizations. We have face painting, music. It is just a wonderful community day. It's one of my favorite things to do in this county. And I just urge you guys to come out, in the public as well. We love to have you guys and we love to see you there. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Mr. Butner.
My name is Christopher Budner, publisher of Calaveras 2026election.com. I am grateful to the editor of the Union Democrat for providing Mr. Martin Huberty with a published forum last Friday pertaining to the disturbing disclosure of Mr. Huberty's name appearing in the Epstein files. Mr. Huberty approached the press opportunity as one of crisis communication and spin doctoring rather than of authenticity and contrition. Mr. Huberty's defensive public response in the Union Democrat to his self-inflicted Epstein emails controversy may now draw other members of Calaveras County's administrative and law enforcement leadership into what has become a widening international investigation, scandal, and reputational damage. Here's why. Mr. Huberty is quoted in the February 2026 article as follows. When I found out I was in the files, I let all the powers that be know that this was the case and nobody had an issue with it, nor should they, he said. If anybody does have an issue, I ask them to call me directly and I can explain whatever it is they want to know and answer whatever questions they have. Mr. Huberty has been elusive regarding the facts and the true nature of his relationship with Sarah Ferguson. My analysis of the emails in which Mr. Huberty appears, factoring in other historical data, produced findings suggesting a more willful and intentional involvement in Ms. Ferguson's tangled personal and financial affairs than the analysis provided by the Union Democrat. Mr. Huberty appears to have been intimately involved in the management and promotion of Sarah Ferguson's financial and business affairs during and following Jeffrey Epstein's imprisonment for committing a sex offense against a minor, including Mr. Huberty having initiated outreach to Jeffrey Epstein's longtime executive assistant, Leslie Groff, to arrange a same-day meeting in June 2009 between Sarah Ferguson and Jeffrey Epstein while Mr. Epstein was serving his jail sentence. Therefore, yesterday, in response to Mr. Huberty's statement about him having informed all the powers that be, I filed 2 California Public Records Act requests. The first was for the release of any and all internal government communications of any type, and the second was for all public-facing announcements and press releases, inclusive of date of media distribution, indicating acknowledgement by the Calaveras County Board of Supervisors, CEO, County Council, District Attorney, and Sheriff, e.g., all the powers that be, that they, 1, confirm receipt of notice from Mr. Huberty of his name appearing in the Epstein files, and 2, that nobody had an issue with it. My name's Christopher Butner, publisher of Calaveras 2026election.com, a government watchdog and accountability to blog to be continued because I have an issue with it.
Any further public comment in the room? Anything online, Ms. Simpson?
Mr. Bender has his hand raised.
Mr.
Ken Bender, yes.
Bender.
Ken, just a reminder, this is public comment, not for items on the agenda. Please go ahead and unmute yourself. Mr. Bender?
I'm sorry.
There
I
you
guess I
are.
need to unmute myself. I'm sorry. My name is Ken Bender. I'm the general manager of the Middle River Community Service District. I just want to remind all of you the importance of CSDs. LAFCO is about to finish, I'm going to guess, sometime in November, their 5-year report on CSDs. CSDs, there's about 8 of them in Calaveras County. What makes them important is that they govern themselves. They take care of their own plowing. They take care of their own roads. They manage everything. The only tie to the county is that the county gets 1% to collect the tax money for them. I educated Autumn on some of this report. It's about 100 pages on the last one. What should interest you is look at what LAFCO recommends at the end of the report. When you see that they recommend a CSD to become a CSA, that's not good. That's an insult. The reason being it becomes a burden then to board members because you become the board of a CSA. And now Public Works has to take care of the roads. Well, in my district, we're 4 miles of road. There's even more miles of road at the district across the river, and so on and so forth. It's important that you try to keep these districts alive. It benefits the county. You need to do anything you can do to help a district. You need to show up at some of the board meetings. You need to show them that you're interested in them. That's the importance of the CSD and Calaveras County. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you, sir. Any further online comments?
We have no further online comments.
All right, we'll bring it to the consent agenda. I'll just let everyone know we're bringing the items first reading of 29 and 30 to the front of the regular agenda. 24 and 25, I apologize. Yeah, the 24 and 25. And they have to do with the emergency services when it comes to him doing his assessment, right? Okay, right. No, I understand. So after we'll be moving those to the front of the regular agenda. For right now, we're gonna move forward with the consent agenda and move right to those first, 24 and 25.
Okay. Consent agenda items are expected to be routine and non-controversial. They will be acted upon by the board at one time without discussion. Any board member, staff member, or interested party may request the removal of an item from the consent agenda for later discussion.
Thank you. Would any board members like to pull any items? Would any member of staff like to pull any items? Public? With that,
We have no online requests.
okay. With that, I'll bring back to the board.
I'll move the consent agenda.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Passes 5-0. And with that, we'll move on to items 24 and 25. Mr. Oliver.
I'm sorry, can I read the?
Yes, you may,
Here.
Ms. Simpson. Of course you can.
Item 24, action item, building, find exempt from CEQA, introduce, waive first reading, and authorize the summary publication and notice for an ordinance amending county code by repealing existing chapter 15.05 grading and drainage ordinance and adopting a new chapter 15.05 with amended language.
Thank you, Chair and members of the board. Doug Oliver, Chief Building Official, and thank you for the preference on this. Item 24 and 25 kind of go together. I'll address both of them in this presentation. Essentially, chapter 1505, our grading and drainage ordinance, was adopted December 4th, 2007, along with chapter 1301, which is our stormwater quality. They work together to essentially establish a permit process for certain limits of grading, and then also a blanket understanding of how construction activity affects stormwater and what minimum standards are in place in order to make sure that we don't contaminate our waterways and endanger public health and safety. The Public Works Department has been the enforcing arm of that since its inception up until May 22nd of last year, where Public Works delegated the grading permit program and the erosion control program to the building department. We immediately started cooperating with Public Works on transitioning the program, learning the inspection and review processes, and then integrating those into our electronic process to try and streamline it out and make it work similar to building permits and other services we provide. However, it is merely a delegation because currently these two ordinances do identify Public Works and the Public Works Director as the enforcing body. So this ordinance primarily is accomplishing three things. One is establishing the building department or the building official in the place of those two previous statements. And then also we have cleaned up some of the language regarding CEQA and making it clear that this is a ministerial permit process and minimum standards for safe water quality. And then also we have made some modifications with county council to the corrective measures to align it better so that we can work directly through our code enforcement program so that we don't have two processes that have to be done for the same enforcement activity. So if there's any questions, it's time.
Micah, you good? Doug, you good? Public comment?
We have no online public comment.
Thank you, Ms. Simpson.
I'll move.
Ms. Foldor, you got a motion?
Yes, I'll move.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Passes on 5-0 vote of the board. Good job, Doug. So,
Item 25 next?
yes.
Thank you. Item 25, action item, building, fine exempt from CEQA, introduce, waive first full reading of, and authorize a summary publication of notice for an ordinance amending county code by repealing existing chapter 13.01, stormwater quality, and adopting a new chapter 13.01 with amended language.
Second verse, same as first.
Okay. Public comment? Any questions by the board?
No online public comment.
Thank you, Ms. Simpson.
Move.
We have a motion by Ms. Fullendorf. Yes. We have a second by Mr. Toffenelli. All those in favor? Aye. Hey,
Doug,
that's
board. Chair, do you mind if I just ask one quick question? And before you go, I know you're going up there. Would you just in your own mind assess what kind of damage and how much debris you think it is? Because it's quite a war zone up there. And I would just be interested in knowing, because I talked to CEO Hitchcock about the amount of debris that we're going to be dealing with. I would just love your opinion on it as well.
It's really too early to tell in
I
most
know.
cases, but I will say that the majority of the damage that we are seeing is minor. There are some, very few catastrophic cases. Most of it is very limited damage that might prevent entry until trees are cleared, but most of the structures have handled it remarkably well.
Okay.
Many lighter trees have come over and just kind of rested against buildings, so very minor damage in most cases. So if you see a yellow tag, it's usually just, hey, just make sure this tree doesn't fall on your entry and then you can go in type of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Oliver, thank you. These last two items, I think they're the fastest that we've worked through something with you when it comes to these things. So
I'll
just
let it go to my
Occam's
head.
razor, sir.
Right. Thank you.
He's got a big smile. And he does.
Here you go. Ms. Simpson.
Item 21, resolution Administrative Office adopt a resolution ratifying the proclamation by the County Executive Officer acting as Director of Emergency Services of a local state of emergency beginning on February 17, 2026, due to the winter storm event.
So, good morning, Board. As many of you already know, we did declare a local state of emergency in order to engage additional resources for the winter storm event that took place further up in Calaveras County. As you heard from our Public Works Director, we had a number of things that were beyond the county's capability in order to handle, especially tree removal. I want to give a shout out to CAL FIRE for their efforts. They got up there and had crews up there to help with some of the tree removal in order to clear the roads and make sure that we could get snow equipment through there. So, and then Sheriff Whiting is here, and she's going to address the board and let you know about some of the other things that the Sheriff's Department encountered as part of this event.
Good morning. I know I've been in contact with all of you throughout this week, and either myself or Captain Tim Sturm. So I know you guys know a lot of this information, but for the purposes of putting this all comprehensive together, so you have all of the info to review the ratification of the declaration, and for the benefit of the public, I'm just going to kind of review a little bit of a timeline and recap, knowing that a lot of our agency leads already gave individual reports. As the storm event developed, by Tuesday, our dispatch center call volume increased due to storm-related calls for service. Call types ranging from reports of standing water on the roadways, trees into power lines and roadways, vehicle accidents and vehicles stuck, residential alarm calls, a lot of which are triggered by fluctuations in the power supply, power outages, snowplow removal assists, and that's where vehicles are parked in the county roadway or right-of-way, and deputies have to be dispatched and cite or tow vehicles to get them out of the way. And welfare checks. So all of this, along with the day-to-day calls unrelated to the storm we've seen over the past week. The routine day-to-day management of government differs greatly from emergency operations. During an emergency, effective decision-making relies on leaders' ability to collect emergency-related information, which requires close coordination between key officials from a variety of departments, agencies, and organizations. That wording is right out of the Emergency Operations Center handbook that FEMA puts out. So when we saw the increased number of calls and issues that were emerging, the Sheriff's Office, working in tandem with county administration, contacted key officials in the county's multi-agency coordinating group, and we scheduled a meeting. Our first cooperators meeting for this event occurred at 3 p.m. last Tuesday. When the Sheriff's Office, acting in the operational area coordinator capacity, had been at a level 3 status of monitoring the countywide impacts of the storm. By facilitating this meeting, the Emergency Operations Center served as the central hub for situation reporting, resource coordination, and public information. When we review the overall scale of a response, levels are adjusted based on the incident's complexity, allowing for rapid expansion or reduction as needed. By the conclusion of that meeting, we had elevated to a level 2 activation of the Emergency Operations Center. This equates to a moderate activation with key agencies involved. Based on agency reports and requests, we scheduled reoccurring morning and afternoon twice daily meetings for agency leads. And in between those meetings, our staff coordinated resource requests amongst all the stakeholders. The Sheriff's Office staffed both the OES duty officer phone line as well as the OES public phone line, and our local dispatch centers fielded hundreds of calls related to this storm event. For public messaging, we dedicated the Sheriff's Office PIO to this event. We compiled information from various agencies and released contact information and updated public awareness on critical topics. Many partnering agency key officials were manning their own department operations centers. And they were coordinating efforts for their own departments. So we opted to keep the meetings virtual, allowing resources to remain in the field. Each of these meetings included a briefing from a National Weather Service representative for up-to-date weather outlook, including anticipated rain and snowfall predictions specifically for our county. The Office of Education was included in the meetings as the storm impact required multi-day school closures and ensuring that the superintendents had up-to-date information to make their operational decisions, emphasizing both student and staff safety. Throughout the week, we coordinated with them throughout even into this weekend to fill resource requests for generator assistance to reopen some school sites yesterday. Early on in the week, last week, which seems like 600 days ago, the sheriff's office pre-positioned assets, including search and rescue personnel and our own sheriff's office tracked equipment, and we assigned them directly to the Ebbets Pass Fire Station in anticipation of increased weather-related calls. As the storm progressed, the sheriff's office assigned a supervisor and a dedicated team of deputies working in unified command structure with the Ebbets Pass Fire Department to handle calls for service. We also deployed our Starlink resource to the EPFD fire station. As to the timeline of the storm effects, initially, going back before the snow took over our lives, you know, it was heavy rain in our lower elevations. So initially there was some concern regarding the rain amounts and monitoring flood levels at our lower elevations. Early in the week, we saw pooling of excessive water on our roadways that were saturated from the rainfall. Rivers such as Cosgrove Creek and others were actively being monitored. The sheriff's office coordinated with Public Works on the availability of sand and sandbags for the public, and we ended up ordering more for the county in anticipation of this event and the continued weather. We even sent our own personnel out of county to pick up that additional supply of sandbags to ensure that they were going to be readily available. Luckily, the intensity and duration of the rainfall at the lower elevations, it did not elevate this to a flood event. Throughout me going over this, it's still raining. We're still in it. This isn't over. So knowing that we are in the middle of another wave, we are actively monitoring the weather. We've provided a National Weather Service update to all the agency leads, and we are going to continue and monitor both the water levels, you know, of our waterways, as well as how the runoff with the storm, with the debris and everything affecting some of the drains. We do want to recognize and thank all the fire chiefs for their coordinated efforts in responding to this event. We received information from local fire agencies that although they were utilizing mutual aid with neighboring districts and had formed task force response teams, they still required more assistance from state resources such as the CAL FIRE hand crews that have the ability to help mitigate issues with downed trees. It was at this time that we worked with county administration to complete an official proclamation declaring the existence of a local emergency when it was determined that emergency conditions were beyond the immediate capabilities of some local resources, services, personnel, equipment, and facilities. As Public Works Director Michael Martin already spoke to it, there were issues that arose with the amount of down power lines in the roadways hindering snowplow operations. This did require a lot more intense coordination with our power utility provider, which is PG&E. So we helped facilitate some of those meetings. We also discussed what would happen if cell service became disrupted from the long-term power outage that sometimes we can see happen upcountry. And although our local cell service providers have contingency plans and COWs, COW means a cellular on wheels base station. Although they have those plans in place, they were available, they did not have the need to deploy it. We were still told that Health and Human Services does have a local COW asset. So although that resource was not needed, it was obtained and pre-positioned in the Arnold area if that need had arisen. The need to stand up a microgrid to support critical infrastructure in Arnold was also discussed amongst the stakeholders and the utility provider. CCWD, the Calaveras County Water District, initially reported a main water line break due to a downed tree line in the Lakemont Pines area. And throughout the event, they expressed concerns about refueling of generators to critical infrastructure. So partner agencies coordinated resources to address access and repair issues. And they worked through that in a very organized manner. CCWD ended up mitigating 2 waterline damages throughout the storm, and were also able to continue to refuel generators at their remote sites to remain operational. With road access issues, extended power outages, and increased welfare checks and extractions, we utilized our own resources. We utilized the probation department to assist us with calls for service. The sheriff's office requested law enforcement mutual aid. We ordered and received 4 additional tracked vehicles manned with law enforcement officers to assist in emergency responses, along with our fire department partners and PG&E assets that were also assisting with some of those. A lot of the initial requests for emergency extraction did include visitors staying at short-term rentals that were unprepared for this weather event and lacked food supply, lacked alternative power or heat sources, and either their vehicles were incapable of operating in 4-wheel drive or vehicles that were unable to be utilized due to the closed roadways. Other requests for extraction included subjects who sustained damage to their dwellings from trees, those who would have otherwise been able to care for themselves, or caregivers who could have helped them, but the extended power outage and the blocked roadways led to them requesting assistance. We had initially coordinated with Health and Human Services to open and staff the warming center in Murphy's. And after the number of emergency extractions and need for sheltering increased, we coordinated with the Red Cross to transition that to an overnight shelter. That shelter operated throughout the weekend and was closed as of yesterday. The way the emergency extractions were accomplished is that fire, law enforcement, search and rescue, PG&E, whatever resources we were utilizing, tracked vehicles to assist people from locations and transport them out to the main roadways that were open. The Calaveras Connect transit buses were utilized to transport those requiring further assistance down to the shelter. The CBB van also helped out with some of that. We are still in the process of gathering statistics, so any estimates that I provide today are pretty rough. But in speaking with the fire chief, and my staff, we're estimating over 100 individuals, that includes adults and children, were assisted at their request to evacuate or be extracted from locations. When I provide the overall number of calls, you'll see the evacuation call number is actually lower than that. And that's due to there were several kind of large groups gathered at some of the short-term rentals. So that's why the number of individuals is higher. In addition, PG&E assisted with the opening of a community resiliency center in West Point. This included a warm, dry place for community members to go, charge their devices, and receive go bags that included foods and supplies. As of Monday morning yesterday, 210 people had utilized the West Point Community Resiliency Center, and PG&E remained committed to keeping that resource open until they were able to obtain a greater reduction of the power outages in that area. There are still a number of residents without power in our county, and the response and restoration efforts are ongoing. There was major damage to utility infrastructure during this event from heavy snow and downed trees. As we start planning for the recovery phase, there are 2 areas where we are actively capturing statistics. This includes the response costs and damage to infrastructure sustained from this event in the public sector. All cooperating agencies are compiling those costs right now. Our local building department, as Doug Oliver already reported, and inspectors are in the field. The assessor's office, the auditor's office, our information technology and GIS department, and our economic development department are all working towards capturing initial damage estimate statistics. We did provide building department head Oliver a list of 60 possible locations where it was reported where trees may have damaged dwellings, outbuildings, or commercial structures. There could be some duplicates on that list, and we're working through it. And this is just initial steps in the damage assessment process So as you know, staff is in the field actively compiling that information. We will push out more information today to the public regarding self-reporting options for damages. If they're not already on our list, how they can report that to us for inspections. At this time, sorry, Stacy. I saw Stacy running in heels earlier. Very safely. So at this time, I'm just going to review. If anyone else wants statistics, I have copies. This time, I'm just going to review some of the figures. This event's ongoing. Like I said, our county acted swiftly with the proclamation and the ratification to this board this morning. So these are just preliminary estimates. These reflect storm-related response activity across the county. These numbers are documented calls for service, but they may not capture additional calls or responses or things that happen when people may be called in directly to the fire departments, utility providers, other elected official, other county departments. So we got these statistics from our dispatch center. A total of 476 calls between February 17th and February 23rd, and that's just West Point, Avery, Arnold, and Dorrington areas of the county. That's 58 evacuations, 96 calls of the roads being blocked either by snow, trees, or power lines, 118 other storm-related calls, 9 requests to remove vehicles out of the roadway that were impeding snowplow operations, 76 welfare checks, 62 citizen assists, 28 911 missed dials related to the storm, 3 smoke check calls, and 26 medical aid calls in the affected area. So the graphics that I just provided for the board. So it's a breakdown of the calls for service. The majority of the calls we saw occurred on the 18th and 19th was our highest call volume days. The graphic there shows the type of calls and then the last graphic, just for the board's knowledge for your individual district, it separates the calls per community, with the Arnold area having the highest concentration, far exceeding the rest of the county. Yeah, and I will say that the last page, the last graphic, it says the total is 373 calls, and I just told you it was 476. We created that graph yesterday, and that's how fast we are recapturing. And just to let you know that this is fluid and the stats are going to change a little bit. But I didn't want to come in here empty-handed, so I want to give you guys an idea of the call volume, the effects on governmental operations, and how things are going. We've also already identified a number of items for after-action review and bolstering of plans that will be addressed down the road. There are always going to be polarized public opinions on how the response was handled. That ranges from the opinion that this storm wasn't that bad and people should have been more prepared to handle a week-long event, to opinions that we should have done more ahead of time and throughout the response efforts. Frustration is understandable. Placing blame is understandable, and it's expected and actually part of emergency response for disasters. The psychology of it is actually well documented. Part of our AAR process, our after action review process, is conducted to foster continuous improvement by analyzing what was intended, what actually occurred, why it happened, and how to improve future performance. I will delay my comments regarding local OES structure, budget, staffing for the subsequent board item happening later. That one was for you, Gary. That concludes my comments on the proclamation. If the board has any questions for me.
Mr. Hubbard, I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you. And thank you to Captain Sturm, because it wasn't easy and you guys just are amazing leaders. I really also want to give a shout out to Chief Johnson and all the agency leads were amazing on this, and thank you very much. The one thing that I would love to talk to you about is the ERSN network. It's a network of radios. We have it in Murphy's End, in the upper Highway 4 corridor. It was a wonderful way of being able to communicate with people, with my constituents. Once you gave me the briefing, I was able to tell people and I said, really calm them down. Because a lot of my constituents didn't have internet and some even ran out of power with their cell phones. So the radios really work well. So thank you.
Yeah, years ago, you're welcome, sir, and thank you very much for the praise. I know a lot of the other department heads and of course my divisional leads did such great professional work. We didn't go without issues. We're never not going to have issues, but they really worked hard at working through it. Years ago, we used to work with the Races Aries group with the ham radio. So I do understand what you're talking about, and we will look at that and make it part of the after action. I don't know if that group's still active or not, but we can definitely facilitate some discussions amongst OES with that.
Ms. Sandal.
I'd like to echo that and thank you, Sheriff and Captain Sturm, your entire staff. The level of communication and coordination was phenomenal. I also appreciated getting, up-to-date information to relay to a lot of the community members. It calms people so significantly just to know what's happening. And I would also like to give a shout out to West Point Fire and Central Fire and all the mutual aid they received. And our road crews. Everybody worked so hard and tirelessly. So thank you for being that hub and keeping everybody working together and coordinating and serving our communities.
Thank you, Ms. Sandal. Yeah, Chief Downs, Chief Winhold, Chief Johnson got the brunt of this storm. However, all the fire chiefs were on our cooperators calls, their strike teams. They dedicated assets to their neighboring district jurisdictions, and they had a really good coordinated response and mitigating things for their communities.
I just want to say thank you too. I started getting a couple phone calls, and just thank you for your quick response so I could get that back to those few phone calls I did get.
You sicked your father on me. Thank you.
Tad is a nice guy. I will attest to that.
What's going on?
Yeah, that's
I
right.
want to know now.
We'd love to
but I
get your
did
bullet
appreciate
points for
that.
part of our after action review from the elected officials as well, so we can add it in. So just to make sure that you're the voice for concern for your constituents on it.
Mr. Toffenall.
Yeah, thank you for you and your crew, and thank you for recognizing the fire chiefs. I work locally with our local one here when the creek starts rising, and it got up close. It was very close. But it started to quit raining so hard and it went back down. And then the incident report you have,
The debris in
didn't
Cosgrove Creek.
didn't have a car in the creek when.
We do recognize there was a temporary blockage of Cosgrove Creek. Under Sheriff Villegas actually drove by. For those that haven't heard, there was a vehicle accident. So we're gonna work on identifying those citizens that actually jumped in and pulled that driver out because they saved her life.
And I thank you for that, because I would like to at least do a proclamation, bring them in here, and because they saved the lady's life. You're absolutely correct.
Well, we will work on that. We know there was a delay and it took a lot of head turns for people seeing a car in the creek. We were in talks with Sam Perry and CHP and they opted to leave it there for a little longer than you probably would have liked, but safety of lives was paramount. We wanted the flood waters to go down a little bit before they pulled that car out.
Yeah, I got a lot of calls.
Understandable.
Yes. So thank you very much.
Sheriff, could I ask you one more question? Do we run into a risk with the warm rains that are coming? That snow melts.
Yeah, so even West Point Fire has already pre-staged some sandbags that they filled for their community members. We are ensuring and checking in with all the locations around the county that they have an ample supply. We did talk to Weather Service about our concerns with the rain, but they were giving us projections of 1.5 to 2 inches. So they had reduced at first. They were, the National Weather Service and more large scale for the West Coast was talking about a Pineapple Express. It looks like it's going a little north of us. I'm not saying it's not going to hit. I'm not a weather expert, and definitely predictions are just predictions, but we are monitoring it. They do expect some of this rainfall to be absorbed by the snowpack. So water runoff will be looked, but it will be absorbed. But as you guys have already brought up, that also adds to the weight of the snow. So we'll just continue to monitor it. Like I said, we're not out of this. We're just coming into government code compliance by doing this ratification to the board within the time frame that's required after the initial proclamation.
Thank you. Look, talking about the car in the creek, I gave you a call on, I believe, the 16th, and
I'll check my phone.
yeah, no, I just did. And it was on the dawn of the transition and everything. This snow issue 5 years ago, we went through it last time I served as chair up in the Arnold area. And there's experience, as always, the sheriff's office is coordinated. So, there's experience in there. I want to thank you all for, as I said, with Public Works, the people on the ground, they were overtime and barely getting any sleep, and you all were of the same mindset and right down there rubbing elbows with them, getting it done. So I appreciate that. And I'm just glad the car didn't get to St. Andrews Bridge like the dumpsters did when it did flood and hang up on the water pipe, because that would have been a very scary event for not only the person in the car, but everyone there on the sides of the road also. So it could have been worse. And everything here, I mean, the spider web of power lines and navigating that, working with PG&E, because we can't go and plow it until PG&E does their thing, and then they can't always get in and do their thing until we plow it. So, coordination between the two and getting things to that point, is a job in itself. So thank you. Public comment? Sir?
Thank you very much, by the way. That was extremely informative. Yeah, I know that there was a lot going on, and from what she just said, OES sounds like they really did a fantastic job of coordinating. I just don't know how much pre-work would have been, like, is that something that you are entirely responsible for? Like, if we didn't have you, would OES and everything else still just fit into order? I mean, it's like you got to coordinate between PG&E, and you got to coordinate between all the fire departments. And is that already in place in advance? And I'd love to hear what you have to say on that.
Yeah,
It's a great question, Mr. Tupani.
If you have any further questions, can you finish them all? In one sure. And then
the only
after
other
public comment, we'll have.
The only thing I wanted to say was short-term rentals, the communication to people that own these short-term rentals has to be like, hey, you come in here without food, or you come in here with a two-wheel drive car without chains, that's a problem. They need to know who to contact. They were contacting Greg Chess, and they were contacting Jessica Snyder. God help them. No, just kidding. But seriously, I mean, these people didn't know who to call, and the short-term rental people need to know who to call, when to call, what to call about.
Thank you, sir. Is there any further public comment? Rochelle, I'm just gonna do it in its entirety, okay?
And we have no online.
Nothing online. There you go.
All right, sorry. To Mr. Tupani's 2 points. The first point, actually later in this meeting, we have been discussing, although the board already voted to start transitioning OES to us. The structure, the planning, the budget, all that's on the agenda. So we're sorting that out. But just like we promised that we would step up if the need arises in the interim, that's exactly what we did. The second point, of course, Public Works Director Micah Martin is already talked on the snowplow operations, and that is part of the action review as far as pre-existing contracts and vendor resource availability list. And lastly, I do appreciate, because we do monitor social media, and a number of realty agencies in the upcountry canceled reservations for this weekend, knowing how it had impacted the community. When we did the winter-wise event pre-winter, that was helped organize by some of the Ebbets Pass Property Owners Association, the EPOC. When we did that event, we did ask and we questioned about what information they put out to the short-term rentals. And the realty agencies and the property management agencies have been putting out warnings and stuff. And much like the weather predictions that came this week, they only go so as far as if people listen to them. But I will say, although the increase in visitors at short-term rentals really did tax our local response system because of all the extra stuff to it, I really do appreciate the local realty companies that help coordinating messaging, down to people that utilize it and passing that through. So that component was part of this. And although it wasn't within our structure, it was just happening in the community. So we appreciate it.
We appreciate you.
Sure, could I just add three things real quick?
2.5.
Yeah, 2.5. I just wanted to address Mr. Tulipani and say that I had spoken, we have a new administration and to our CEO Hitchcock and to our Public Works Director, Micah Martin, to start opening up the idea of making contracts with them up there so that we're covered. And then the other thing is, which I've just forgotten because my brain's not working. Wait, hang on.
The point
Point, thank you. Is that we also yesterday with Supervisor Andal, we're talking directly to Airbnb you'd have to sign off as a guest that you read all these rules before you can actually even book something. So that's with Brett and our ordinance, which should be coming out in September.
Yeah.
So thank you. Thank you, sir. Sure. Can't talk.
It's okay. I handed off with my stutter during the earlier. Anything else by any other board members? Yeah, yes, sir. That's right where I was going with it. I'm just making sure I got all this in. We gotta adopt the resolution ratifying it, right?
Yes.
So I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Passes on 5-0 vote of the board. Ms. Simpson, we'll take a 10-minute break.
Okay. Okay.
We got a thumbs up, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the meeting of the Calaveras County Board of Supervisors. Ms. Simpson, can we hear the next agenda item, please?
Item 22, action item, public health, discuss with staff and provide direction on the board's interest in exploring the potential purchase of property for public health purposes.
Marcos.
Good morning, the Chair, members of the board, Marcos Munoz, Health and Human Services Director. So on September 30th of this year, our lease for our public health department will be expiring. In addition to bringing the option to renew the lease, we are seeking permission from the board to explore other options, including purchasing property. We anticipate exploring these options will take more staff time and resources than is typical for just a lease renewal, and therefore we are here today seeking approval. Why now? We are seeing lease costs go up dramatically. We're also seeing storage costs continue to increase. And so we thought now would be the time with our lease coming to an end, just to be able to bring back the board options that include not just only leasing, but maybe if we find something potentially purchasing as well. Any questions?
Board members? They look content. So, Mr. Toffenelli, do you have anything?
How large a building are you looking for?
So right now we are in 5,500 square feet. But if you've been to public health, we've doubled up all of the offices. So we have multiple managers in each office. First Five is also in the building with us. We also have several storage units. So we are looking for something that will fit all of our storage equipment as well as us on the same property. So I don't have a square footage in mind. We're keeping that open, but we do want to start putting time looking in to see what's available. We do want to keep it centralized, so we still want to keep it close to San Andreas, but we want to keep all options open.
Thank you, Marcos. That's what I see from the board. Public comment.
We have no online public comment.
Okay, nothing in the room. I'll bring it back to the board.
I'll move this item, given them permission to go look for properties. I think that's what he's asking for.
Yes.
And yeah, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? 5-0 vote of the board. Thank you, Marcos. Ms. Simpson, can we go back to item 21? DSA sign letter. Maybe there's a mix up on how it got juggled, so.
I'm sorry, what are we looking at?
Okay, that's, okay.
There was an.
I don't know why it's out of order on my.
Oh, okay, I
The agenda
apologize.
was republished
Oh.
the same day, and it's possible that
I downloaded it.
it's possible, yeah.
You know what? I was right on the button when you published it the first times and I didn't do the revised one. With that said, don't listen to me and please move on to the next one.
Okay, item 23, action item, economic community development. 1, terminate the Stanislaus Regional Housing Authority's Regional Early Action Plan 2.0 grant subaward and authorize staff to send written notice to SRHA effectuating the termination, and 2, authorize the reissuance of a notice of funding availability and competitive grant program with approximately $1,171,142 of REAP 2.0 grant funds for promoting pre-development of workforce housing consistent with program goals.
A mouthful. Thank you. Miss Galino.
Good morning, Chair Stopper, Honorable Board, Kathy Galino, Economic and Community Development. First off, there is a typo that I would like to ask be corrected and read into record. There's actually approximately there's $1,660,573.
Instead of 1.1.
Yeah. The 1.1 is actually for pre-development. There's also an additional 570,000 for permitting and other utility infrastructure. So the total amount is 1,660,573. Thank you. So I'm returning as directed by the board on February 10th. The board indicated it was not interested in executing the request from Stanislaus Regional Housing Authority to amend their agreement and actually sell the property. I'm coming back to you with the termination of the Stanislaus Regional Housing Authority current agreement, and also asking if I can go ahead and renotice the notice of funding availability and the competitive grant process. By approving this item, I will work with county council to send out the notification as soon as possible so that we can get the ball rolling as quickly as possible, since there's a 15-day termination period. So, are there any questions?
Ms. Andal?
I'm sorry, I had that on still.
Don't be
No
sorry.
current questions. Thank you.
Okay, just, thank you for bringing this back so quickly. We appreciate it. And, you know, it is a short runway as it is, so I personally am in favor of looking at what our possibilities are moving forward and facilitating this funding and getting something materialized, finalized. With that, any public comment?
We have no online public comment.
I don't see anything at the time in the room, so I'll bring it back to the board.
I'll make a motion.
We have a motion by Mr. Huberty.
1 second.
We have a second by Mr. Toffenelli. All those in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Short and sweet, Kathy. Thank you. Miss Simpson.
Okay, item 26, informational item, auditor controller, receive a presentation from the auditor controller's office on the fiscal year 2024-25 audit and associated reports.
But so we'll get a preview from you, correct?
It just kind of turned out that way this year. My target meeting in future would be the first meeting in February. But I'll explain that a little bit more as I go through, and I'll make this as short as I possibly can.
Preload it, let it soak in a little bit.
Well, that's, you know, it's a presentation that I could go on for an hour about, and I cut it down so significantly because I didn't want to do a governmental accounting 101 course or anything like that. I just information I wanted you to have and I want the public to have.
Maybe we could have that a 101 course, one-on-one later.
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir. I need to be educated further every time. So.
I apologize. 1 second.
Oh, I don't like my camera angle. Let me fix that.
There we go. Let's see.
Click me forward.
Should just be there.
Right, board, everyone, thank you for letting me take a little bit of time in this meeting. I felt a little silly with all of the impacted communities and the serious issues that we're dealing with to take this time, but I appreciate you letting me do so. Every year, my office goes through, our kind of busy season starts with the end of the fiscal year, June 30th. We take about 6 weeks where we go through hundreds of steps to close the fiscal year. We try to cram that in before the budget process starts, and it's a marathon each time, and we do the best that we can to not slow down any other processes. At that point, when we close the fiscal year, then we move into the audit, and concurrent with being audited, working with all the other departments, we also produce our ACFR, which is the annual comprehensive financial report. We do a financial transaction report to the state of California, and we also do a cost allocation plan, all within that same kind of window of work. It is a lot of work, and I even before I get to the end and commend everyone, my staff does an amazing job of working as quickly and as accurately as we possibly can. All right, so our annual comprehensive financial report, what I want to do is just kind of give a brief overview of what this report is, a couple of things that I find especially pertinent and interesting from that. This is where I, had to cut down. What I find interesting is not what you will find interesting or the public will find interesting, and I understand that. So I tried to narrow this down as much as possible. But the things that are found in this is a management discussion and analysis section where I look at, and with help from the CEO's office, from the different department heads, any significant changes of any type in the county. I write a narrative. It's usually 5 to 6 pages of my interpretation of things. There's the basic financial statements, which I'll touch on a little bit more in a minute. There's a big section of budgetary comparison schedules. And there's also a statistical section that I come back to because I find that part very interesting for me to review, but also for information about the county. These is kind of the big overview of the basic financial statements. This is the one part where it's, governmental accounting 101. So there's going to be 2 different sets of the same information. That's we have a countywide that comes first. Then we have the second section, which is governmental funds, where it's split down. You'll see the government, you'll see the general fund, you'll see the major program funds, and you'll see non-major program funds. This government totals, you'll notice the severe difference in, the amount of assets. On the government total, we're at 346 million. On the governmental funds, we recognize 162 million. Very conveniently, a few pages after this, they give us a reconciliation of what is in those big governmental funds that is not in the one where it's broken down between the governmental funds. So it's basically, we take out all of the capital assets and we take out a lot of the liabilities that are not required to use immediate available funds. So like our future pension costs are going to be removed from those numbers. One of them that's pretty interesting is the closure and post-closure liability that comes with the landfills. There's going to be a lot of future liability that the county does need to recognize, but we'll recognize it kind of in segments as the landfill fills up. And that calculation is done each year. So as Supervisor Stopper said earlier, anyone wants a one-on-one explanation of this further, you know where I am. This one I found very interesting. You'll kind of see the trend of our net investment in capital. This is, you'll see the increase as we go. The main reason for that is we have a lot of infrastructure projects. We have significant asset purchases, buildings. As we finish up like a road, it's going to depreciate over, 40 to 50 years. And that's recognized as we go. So these will grow as those become the focus of, the capital outlay. If we were to change that and buy a whole bunch of fast depreciating assets like vehicles or things like that, you would see these numbers, taper down. The statistical section I mentioned with the 10-year historical data, I kind of listed here some of the examples of what that looks like. I don't want to go through those individually, but there is a lot of information in that section. This is kind of the trend where I took the table data, put it into a chart. That really impressive line at the top is our intergovernmental revenues, state and federal funding sources. That one has significantly increased over the last 10 years. This is kind of our expenses by function. So we look at, public protection or public ways and means. I find this part very interesting just to see kind of what the focus of our county has been over the last decade and where the spending has been. You might notice that weird looking orange triangle there. That's what it looks like when we refinance the general obligation bond. And so you have like that big payoff of the old bond, and you wouldn't see that our overall debt level stayed very similar. But as far as financing the bonds, that's what the accounting looks like. And this is just a side by side, our revenues versus expenses on This is going to be a little bit different than our budget totals, because if you think of it, the budget operates very much on a cash basis. If the money comes in, we see it as revenue that year. If the money goes out, we see it as expenditures that year. These reports will be, if we earned the revenue in that year, we'll see it whether we received it or not. If we owe someone money at the end of the year, we'll still see it as an expense in that year, even though we haven't paid them yet. So there's that little bit of difference. So you'll see some years where our revenues are much higher than our expenses, like in 23, 24. You'll see a year like 2018, 19, where our expenditures are much higher than our revenues. And that is very normal from what I've seen in the history, because we tend to, if we have a large carry forward balance, we spend more the next year. That's just kind of how the trend has happened. This is an example of what I thought was a lot of fun, was the operating indicators. I talked to our animal services. They said they didn't mind having this pointed out, but just looking at the last 10 years of average daily animal population, there's different things like that. There's a section for the library where you can see how many items were checked out in each of the last 10 years. How many building permits were, approved in that year. Just very interesting information that is available to anyone in the county. All of these reports are on the website. So at the end of each explanation of the report, I also put a page of the risks that we run if we either misrepresent financially or we fail to file these reports with the governing agencies. This one is the least impacted, because it's a report that's very informational. Every financing situation will ask for multiple years of these reports. Like, they are important, but if they're filed late or they're missing for whatever reason, there's not an explicit penalty, but it will really impact how we're seen by potential creditors, the state, the federal government. It does have a lot of ramifications. The top part of that, just bragging on my staff, we have received a certificate of achievement for excellence for each of the past 19 years. So all of my predecessors, and we hope to continue that trend. Okay, so moving on to the single audit report. This one has to do with federal expenditures. This was originally put into place in 1984, and it was amended significantly in 1996. Prior to that, in the 70s, every federal grant program would have its own auditing requirements. And so if you receive, 7 different federal grants, you're being audited by 7 different outside auditors coming in to deal with these. So in 1984, they said, okay, let's call it a single audit, and your outside auditor will look at all of your federal expenditures for that year, do the audit, produce a report. It has streamlined quite a bit, but it also is one of the most important reports that we produce. This is also the one where we find if there are any misreportings or misapplications of accounting rules, we will see those show up in this report. They have 2 different sections. They have material weaknesses in financial statements, which we do have 1 material weakness identified for 24-25, and we had no material weaknesses identified for the single audit for the federal funds. I did provide, this is directly from the report, the type of funding or the type of finding that it is, what happened. And then with any findings that happen, I write up a corrective action plan, submit that to the state, get that approved, so that it doesn't. One of the worst things to ever see on this report is a repeated finding. So we strive very hard to, in the history that I've gone back and looked at, we have never had a repeat finding. And there have been 2 of the last 5 years, we had no findings, and the ones where there was either 1 or 2 that were corrected by the next year. Before I move on, and this is important, so do you want me to go into any further detail on that, or is what I've provided here sufficient?
If looks like everyone's content so far. Good news is good news when it comes to the findings on the audit. So appreciate that.
All right, great. This one is just kind of I found this very interesting with when we look at the expenditures for the last 5 years, the types of, these are the biggest programs that we have dealt with over that time. That's agriculture, urban development. You'll see the U.S. Department of Transportation. That one, in talking with Public Works, it just depends on what type of projects they're doing. Is it federally funded or is it state funded? And that will affect how this is represented. Health and Human Services has been pretty consistent. Those other federal departments, you'll see the red spike and the green spike. That red one was the CARES Act funding when we received and expended that. And then the green was the ARPA funding when we received and expended that. This one I took directly from the CFR 200 because I found this very important to look at what are the county's risks when it comes to this report. If we misrepresent or fail to file this report, we can look at a temporary withholding of payments, disallowing of costs, suspend or terminate the federal award in part or in its entirety, and withhold further federal funds. So this one is very important and we don't take that lightly. The financial transaction report is the state's version of our ACFR, the annual comprehensive, but they break it down from a basic financial statement of 2 pages into 30 forms of just breakdown, what type of revenue it was, what department, it's broken down every which way from Thursday. And they give us the deadlines for all of the reports I've mentioned now have been December 31st. The financial transaction report is usually due February 1st. They give us an extra month to prepare this after the ACFR is complete. This one carries, first, kudos for the auditor's office. We had a award from the SCO for the past 4 years. The potential penalties that come with falsifying or refusing to submit these is a misdemeanor charge and $1,000 fine for myself. And then for the county, a $5,000 fine plus potential referral to the Attorney General, outside audit, or the grand jury. All right, so our cost allocation plan is something that we produce with the same data from the previous fiscal year, and we identify central services. So if we want to liken this to running a business, these are our overhead costs for the county. These are the departments that are contained therein. And I'm going to go through this real quickly because I don't want to take up more time. But where these cost totals come from is, you'll notice that I'm second on that list. So anything in my department that is used to serve the county that is not reimbursed by some other source. So part of my department does property tax administration. We get part of the property tax taxes that we collect in my office. We don't charge that out to the rest of the county. That's removed from that total. So this 13.9 million is the costs of these departments that have not been covered by some other revenue source. Part of these, we do charge back to board-governed, non-general fund departments. We do it through what used to be called the A87. Now we call it the County Cost Allocation Plan. And you'll notice here that the general fund departments that do reimburse those central service departments are about $600,000. Non-general fund departments do another 5.1 million, but then there's still, was that $8.8 million that are not reimbursed by the departments or the agencies that receive those services. That has been by direction of previous boards, and I'm not here to, say that it is what it is, and whatever your direction on that happens to be. But what I find very important about this is when we look at the budget, you'll see $1 million that you are paying for auditor services. But what that actually is my services have been given to these different either general fund departments by function or special districts that are not being reimbursed for. So when you pay $1 million to have my department run, you're actually providing services to all of these other programs and agencies. So looking at that, and like I said, I am not arguing for any change in the way that we approach this, but I wanted to point out that this cost allocation plan does an amazing job of putting a value to what services we are providing to, let's say, you know, our cemetery districts. Most of them are very small. I think it's very, very good that you are, as a board, are donating our services to them, you know, to the tune of $24,000. And that's kind of what those numbers represent. If we don't have a cost allocation plan approved by the state controller's office, we run the risk of being refused any administrative claims on grant claims. So a lot of departments are using that 15% de minimis rate. Some are using our cost allocation plan. We run the risk of being refused those funds if we don't have a valid cost allocation plan in place. So before more eyes gloss over, I again want to thank you for your time. I want to thank my staff. There is no way that this is a one department project. Every department, we are in contact with each department head, each fiscal staff member. So much work goes into this. The auditing procedures and things that we put into place and ask fiscal staff to adhere to is to help this be as accurate as possible. And, you know, we couldn't do that without all of these contributors. Before I wrap up, I want to answer why I'm sitting here before you. I understand this is not a required presentation. This is not, and it hasn't been done since I've been at the county. But what I think is I have pointed out the importance of the work that we do in the auditor's office. And I don't take lightly the trust that the public has put into me and my staff and the trust that you put into us. We do almost all of our work behind the scenes, but I think that it's very important for me to publicly sit before you and tell you these 4 reports have been filed on time, as accurately as we possibly can, and so that you go forward knowing that that has been done. I think that should be a public function. That maybe this is just my own version of what transparency looks for to me. But that's why I'm sitting here before you. I plan to do this every year. In my research in other counties, some that run into problems financially or legally, one of the first indicators is these reports go missing. Like that. So if I'm ever not sitting before you, that's a red flag. Yes. If these reports aren't filed timely, that's a red flag. And that is my stewardship. And so that's why I'm sitting here before you. And that's why you'll see me at least once a year if you don't call me more often. But thank you for your time. This was purely informational. But in future reports, I will not spend nearly the time explaining what things are, but kind of, I thought it was important for this first one. And if there's anything that you would like to see, you can, you know, any thoughts or notes can go through the CEO's office or directly to me, either way.
Thank you, Mr. Sessions. You know, not just for us, but each time there's going to be new eyes on this. So some of the essential step-by-step explanations, I think, could be reoccurring for, you know, new people that are seeing your presentations. And I personally appreciate you taking the steps to start bringing this forward after some time it being in recess or whatever it may be. And that helps provide transparency to the public. Thank you. Anything by any other board members?
I do. That's okay. I just want to say thank you. I know UC itself is elected, but I take pride in this county that we have a great relationship with your office. I know some counties don't. And I think that having this open communication is only, and this relationship is only better for us in the future, especially as we start working through budgets and things like that, because it really, it takes both to be successful. If you want to, however you want to define that success, when you go tell the public you can't do something, but I think having this to your point with the transparency to the public, they see us engaging, they know it's happening. Because you guys are the silent workers behind the scenes that, you're not out like the snowplows, So I think this is a great step, and I also think it's great with you stepping in, building that relationship with the board and also the community, as we go forward. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
I'd like to say thank you for this report and what's going on, and thank you for reaching out to Mountain County's EMS agency and providing some service for us there that was needed, what's going on for that. So I really appreciate that. And I've always had a good relationship with this department. They pay the bills, so and they keep track of the monies. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Miss Andall.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you for, I really appreciate, all the graphs, all the bullet points. This is very informative and easy to read. And I hope that some public takes advantage of that and, knows that they, have this available to them to know what's happening. So often we hear from the public and it's usually with grumblings, right? If they want to know things, but the information is here and it's very clear. And I appreciate it. And kudos to your staff on all of your accomplishments. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to say thank you as well. And you've taken this position and just put your foot on the gas, it seems, and it really is, it shows. Thank you.
Is there any other way?
Last place and running to win. Any public comment? Online.
We have no online public comment.
With that, thank you, sir. And we know what number 27 is, or the next one. I see that's sort of kind of out.
Oh, next comes the big one.
Item 27, action item, Administrative Office. 1, receive the fiscal year 2025-26 mid-year budget presentation. 2, approve the mid-year budget adjustments outlined in attachments A and B. 3, approve the mid-year capital request included in as attachment C. And 4, approve the mid-year personnel request outlined in attachment D. Requires a 4/5 vote.
Denise Hubner. Do we have a moment or are you ready? You're gonna hit the ground running? All right, running to win.
Part of the 4/5 vote.
Morning board, Denise Hubner, Assistant CEO. Today, she has her mid-year budget.
Denise, your mic. Sorry.
Is it on now?
Yes.
Yes.
There's no light on this one.
We can hear you.
Okay. The topics I'll be covering today in this presentation are overview of the county budget process, a general fund revenue review as of mid-year, the overview of mid-year changes, department-specific personnel capital asset and CIP requests, overview of notable budget adjustments, and then staff recommendations. Counties develop budgets in accordance with rules outlined in state law, the primary being in the County Budget Act, which recognizes 3 distinct versions of the budget. The County Budget Act requires that the board approve the recommended budget by June 30th of each fiscal year. and hold public hearings and adopt the budget by October 2nd. For this fiscal year, recommended budget went to the board on June 10th and was approved as the working budget on June 24th, 2025. The revised recommended budget was presented on September 9th and adopted on September 23rd, at which time changes necessitated by the close of the fiscal year and updates to previously estimated figures were included. The state adopted budget, the version approved in September, is what acts as the budget of record for the state controller's office. As you can see, the mid-year budget review is not mandated by the County Budget Act. However, this is a process that our county and many other counties use to review all fund activity and enable departments to make necessary budget operations to operate through the remainder of the fiscal year. Today, I'll highlight the key changes in this budget package designed to support operations for the remainder of the fiscal year and provide an overview of county general revenue performance at the 6-month mark. General fund revenue. The percentage of general fund revenue received compared to the budgeted amounts are shown here. As of December 31st, the county had received $39 million of the budgeted $75.9 million in general fund revenue. While many revenue sources are performing at or above anticipated levels, several appear to be underperforming for various reasons. So those I'll go over. The revenue sources with lower collections are licenses, permits, and franchise fees. Most franchise fee revenue is received later in the fiscal year, so this category is actually expected to meet the budgeted amount. Fines, forfeitures, and penalties. Only $295,000 has been received as of December 31st. However, TITA revenue of approximately $1.4 million is expected to be received in June. That's when we receive it every year. This category is expected to slightly exceed the budgeted amount. Other financing sources. While revenue for reimbursements is lower than anticipated, a lot of reimbursement activity is directly related to corresponding expenditures, and there is also a reduction in the corresponding expenses related to those reimbursements. So that's not a red flag. Intergovernmental revenue. Lower figures are due to the expiration of the Shasta jail beds contract, resulting in lost revenue. I've contacted the sheriff's office. No adjustments are needed. That's because additional revenue is anticipated to cover that shortfall. The revenue sources performing above expectations are taxes. Property tax estimates are prepared conservatively, and collections typically slightly exceed our budgeted figures. Revenue from use or money and property. Our interest came in higher than anticipated, and that's due to having larger fund balances because project costs haven't been, for example, in our county capital cost account, because project costs haven't been expended yet to draw down on that fund balance. Intergovernmental federal revenue. Overperformance is due to one-time receipt of prior year disaster costs in 2 of our winter storm accounts. And that prior year revenue was added at mid-year as a transfer to our county capital account as in the same way that general fund balance transfers in excess at the end of the year. General fund expenditure actuals. The percentage of general fund expenditures compared to budgeted amounts is shown here. As of December 31st, the county had spent $37 million of the budgeted $72.7 million in general fund expenditures. All categories except services and supplies are trending below budgeted figures. Services and supply costs are trending slightly higher than anticipated, and that's due to a lot of contract expenditures and other items being paid for at the beginning of the fiscal year. So now I'm going to do an overview of our major general fund revenues. Secured property taxes remain a stable source of revenue for the county. For fiscal year 25-26, the budgeted amount for property taxes is just over $17.2 million. At mid-year, collections totaled $9.767 million. Secured property taxes are expected to slightly exceed the budgeted amount for the current fiscal year. However, no adjustment is being recommended with the mid-year package, and that's because we always just err on the conservative side with our revenue. Sales tax revenue is a less stable source of revenue compared to property taxes. For fiscal year 25-26, the budgeted Amount for sales tax collections is 4.65 million. As of December 31st, 2.3 million had been collected. We normally do see slightly lower collections in the second half of the fiscal year, so a 50,000 reduction in sales tax revenue is recommended at mid-year. Transient occupancy taxes are charged to travelers when they rent accommodations such as hotels or vacation homes. Since 2021, TOT collections have remained relatively steady at Calaveras, approximately 2.7 million per year. For the current fiscal year, the budget is set at 2.65 million, and mid-year collections totaled 1.38 million, slightly exceeding expectations for this point in the year. It's anticipated that collections will finish just above the budgeted amount, but no budget adjustments are recommended for TOT at this time. And again, that's because we take the conservative approach, expecting that it's a possibility that collections will come in lower the second half of the year.
People go out there home.
Yeah, for sure. Excise tax. For the current fiscal year, excise taxes are budgeted 2.85 million. As of December 31st, collections totaled just under 1.55 million. Admin anticipates that excise tax revenue will align closely with the 2.85 million budgeted amount. Therefore, no mid-year adjustment is recommended. So overall budget mid-year changes. So this first one is not general fund, it's the full budget, a budget in its entirety. Total revenue in the overall budget, including mid-year adjustments, is $289 million. This is a 8.69 million difference from adopted budget, largely due to increase in transfers in, and we'll go through some of that in the department requests. The largest sources of revenues are operating transfers in of 88.5 million, state revenue of 62.5 million, taxes of 40.6 million, and federal revenue of 37.4 million. Total expenditures in the overall budget, including mid-year adjustments, are 427 million. This is, again, just because we balance our accounts, it matches that exact revenue amount of 8.69 million. From adopted budget, largely due to an increase in operating transfers out. The largest categories of budgeted expenditures are 108 million in contingencies, operating transfers in of 88.6 million, salary and benefits of 80.2 million, which is 19% of the total budget, capital assets and projects of 68.9 million, and services and supplies of 49.7 million, which makes up 12% of the total budget. General fund mid-year changes. Total general fund revenue with mid-year adjustments is budgeted at 77.6 million, which is an increase of $1.63 million. The majority of that adjustment is due to operating transfers in. The largest sources of general fund revenue included are taxes at 33.5 million, which is 43% of revenue, transfers in of 18.2 million, and charges for services of 9.5 million. General fund expenditures with mid-year adjustments are just under 85.7 million, which is an increase of 1.63 million. The majority of that adjustment is due to operating transfers out. The largest categories of general fund expenditures are salaries and benefits, which make up 53% of the total at 47 million. Services and supplies, which is 29% of the total at 26 million, and operating transfers out of 5.8 million. So now I'm going to jump into the specific department requests. Here we have the requested position changes. I'll go through the general fund first. This facilities division is requesting a job title change and job description update for the vacant facilities supervisor position, which changes it to a custodial supervisor. That will better reflect the job duties and expectations of that position, and there's no cost associated with that. The clerk recorder is requesting an increase in the FTE of the county archivist position from 0.6 to 1.0 FTE, which would align that position with mandated responsibilities. The cost for the remainder of this fiscal year is paid for out of a special revenue fund of $15,638 anticipated. The estimated cost for next fiscal year is just over $43,000. Next on the list is really just a cleanup item, which is the office technician classification. which is used countywide. It needs the MQs updated to better reflect what necessary MQs are for that position. And there's no fiscal impact related with that change. Moving on to district attorney. They request a deletion of a vacant senior department analyst and a new position of a district attorney investigator. This change will allow the duties of the analyst to be redistributed among support staff and broaden the operational capacity of the DA's office by adding the investigator. The net difference between those two positions is approximately $4,600 for the remainder of this fiscal year and $14,000 next fiscal year. The next one on the list is Office of Emergency Services. I want to point out this is unrelated to the item you'll be seeing later. This position, we're recommending a deletion of the vacant limited term department analyst that was associated with a grant. That grant is no longer active, so the recommendation to delete this position is just due to the grant being no longer active. It does not touch the positions that the other two positions in OES. There's no general fund savings as this position was already unfunded this fiscal year. Planning, also general fund. Deletion of a vacant planner position. This change is associated with the reclassifications that happened as part of the adopted budget. There's no general fund savings as that position has also been unfunded since that time. Probation requests the addition of a re-entry specialist, which is associated with their PATH grant money. The anticipated cost is $29,000 for the remainder of this fiscal year and $131,000 next fiscal year. The Sheriff's Office is requesting two changes, neither of which have a fiscal impact. PCN change for the Sheriff Services Technician, which is associated with the coroner transition to scan records. It was established in the incorrect PCN, so we're just trying to move that to the correct PCN number. And then the second is a job description update for the correctional corporal to clarify position duties and requirements. So neither of those sheriff changes have fiscal impact. Moving on to non-general fund departments. The first couple that I'm going to mention are a handful of cleanup items, which are job description updates to the HHSA program manager to make the description more generalized so that it can broaden use of that position throughout other departments within HHSA. PCN changes for a supervising admin assistant, senior account tech, and office tech, which will move the positions to the appropriate units. This is the same as what the sheriff's was, just to move the PCN for where it's being paid for. The other position requests are largely from HHSA. Human Services Division requests the addition of a social services supervisor due to new funding and mandates with an estimated cost of $49,000 for the remainder of this fiscal year and a cost of $148,000 next fiscal year. Mental Health Division requests deletion of a case manager 3 and the addition of a triage case manager associated with that change. This will align the position with the duties being performed. The net change for these two positions is $3,000 this fiscal year and approximately $9,000 in fiscal year 26-27. Additionally, mental health is requesting an FTE increase from a 0.5 to a 1.0 for a clinician 1-2 position. The cost of this change is $28,000 this fiscal year and an estimated $80,000 next year. Public health, there's quite a bit in here for public health. I would like to mention that unions have already been, these have been discussed with the unions by HR. Public health division requests deletion of 2 community engagement coordinators, a clinical nurse, a department analyst, 2 health ed specialists, an office tech, and a public health nurse. These deletions of vacant positions and the decision not to fill was due to changes in the public health funding. In addition, public health requests reclassification of a community engagement coordinator 2 to a program coordinator 2. Public health position changes result in significant budget savings overall. The only other non-general fund request in positions outside of HHSA is from Public Works, which is requesting a reclassification of their admin services officer position to an accounting technician, which results in a savings of $5,700 in this fiscal year and approximately $17,000 in next fiscal year. Any questions specific to positions before I hop on? No? Okay. The county has multiple CIP accounts. The county's main CIP account, airport CIPs that occur in the enterprise fund, and the road CIP account. There were no changes brought forward for the airport CIPs or the road CIPs. The county CIP projects that we're recommending changes or addition of is the first, an existing project for the jail food ports. Cost came in 5,000 higher than anticipated, so funds were reallocated from the jail's maintenance budget to cover that cost. And then 4 new countywide projects, 3 of which are integrated waste, which are the flare materials recycling facility. Weather structures need some update to reduce stormwater runoff and reduce particulates. Both of these are funded with integrated waste management fees. And additionally, integrated waste material recycling facility is in need of roof repairs. This CIP is also funded with integrated waste management fees. It's likely that all 3 of those integrated waste projects will be rolled to next year, but the department felt it was essential to start the projects this year, get them out to bid, and not have a delay on the projects. Probation is also requesting a CIP. They would like a minor office modification that will create a separate youth space that is fully funded with their PATH grant. That's it for CIPs. Capital assets are also pretty limited this go round. The capital assets being recommended as part of this budget package are probation, 3 vehicles covered with PATH grant funding. Animal services, 2 14-foot cargo trailers funded with an ASPCA grant. And HHSA, a copier paid for with MAW dollars. So none of those are general fund dollars. Overview of notable budget adjustments. The general fund in totality resulted in a 1.63 million in revenue and expenditure changes. All the budget adjustments are outlined on the attachments in the agenda item, but I'm just going to go through some of the most notable adjustments here. Animal Services received an ASPCA grant of $98,000, and they also had a revenue increase or an expenditure increase of $214,000. The $98,000 of that being related to that grant. The remainder is due to extra hire for staff coverage and some healthcare cost increase. CalEMA had a change of $70,000 that needed to be budgeted in salaries for an amount that was not budgeted, with a transfer in to cover that cost from their SRF. Code compliance, their revenue is down a little bit. So they dropped their revenue amount by $43,000 and put their expenditures up by $115,000. The $115,000 encompasses a couple of things. They're asking for an additional $80,000 to cover 2 more abatement projects. And then they had some healthcare increases and salary change in their department. County contributions, you'll see a $163,000 transfer from general fund to county capital, and that's for excess revenue that's came in to balance the general fund. District attorney has an increase in $85,000 for PATH grant funds passed from probation. They have $135,000 in expenditure increase. That results in a net fund balance decrease of $50,000. The $50,000 is largely due to healthcare increases in their unit. DR 4683, which was one of the 22-23 winter storms, we got unanticipated prior year revenue in that account of $166,000 and then had a minor change to expenditures. And we transferred the difference in those two of $162,000 to county capital. DR 4699, which is also a 2023 winter storm account. We also received unanticipated revenue in that account of $603,000 for prior year costs. We do have a minor reimbursement that needs to be paid. So that the difference in that of $599,000 is also being transferred to the county capital account to pay for future general fund capital costs. Elections, significant revenue increase of $348,000. That's due to the special election that was held in November. At that time, the elections department was unsure if that election was going to be reimbursed by the state. In fact, it was reimbursed. So that $348,000 is to cover the expenditures that were in the budget, but the revenue was not. General revenues, I spoke about it a little bit earlier. I'm recommending a reduction of sales and use tax of $50,000. Information technology had vacancy savings. They had multiple, I think 3 vacant positions for the majority of the beginning of the year of $95,000. Insurance, we got an unanticipated liability premium, dividend of $125,000, and then we had also a savings and a premium amount of $520,000. So that actually, that amount right there covered a lot of the other general fund requests, that savings in the insurance fund. Office of Emergency Services. I'd like to pause for a second on this one because I do want to point out that the changes being recommended for the Office of Emergency Services have nothing to do with the transition of the Office of Emergency Services that will be talked about later. These are amounts that would have needed to be adjusted without that change happening due to over projection of revenue and some loss of grant funding and some additional contract expenses that needed to happen. So I just wanted to clearly outline and delineate that this $400,000 difference, $402,000 excess needed for Office of Emergency Services has no it's not related at all to the item you'll be discussing later, but I do want to go through what those decreases are. We're recommending a state grant revenue decrease of $634,000 due to new projections. That is, we feel HSGP was overprojected, EMPG was overprojected. We lost CFSC grant funding, so that is backed out. And then some of that is related to a decrease in expenditures on McKay's because they're done with that portion of the project. So the $385,000 that you see decreased in expenditures, $385,000 of that grant revenue is associated directly with those expenditures. So that's why. Okay. So that's why it's only $400,000 decrease to fund balance, even though there's a $634,000 decrease to revenue. We are recommending $140,000. We don't think the expense will be that high, but we have entered into a contract for a hazard mitigation plan that is due by October of 2026. So we have a consultant working on that. Did you have a question, Supervisor Follendorf?
I have a question.
Uh-huh.
And I know Martin wasn't, I don't think you were at the last meeting we had, but I am concerned about the reduction on McKay's because at some point the county still need to take that over. And so what would that projected cost be?
Our office is working with the Stanislaus National Forest right now. Jamie is working with them and it'll be brought forward as a standalone item.
Okay,
To
I just
discuss
don't want to
what that
back
looks
it
like.
out on this line and then come back and be like,
It'll come back as a standalone when we have, right now we have no, we're not even sure that the maintenance will cost anything, that it might be an MOU between the National Forest and.
okay.
Yeah. The Avery project also that was being worked on, if that can get done in time, that'll come as a standalone. Probation, there's a large revenue increase of $642,000. That's directly related to their PATH grant funding and $572,000 in offsetting expenditures for software, equipment, and services related to their grant. The remaining revenue that they received is actually resulting in a general fund contribution decrease for that department. And then victim witness has a $69,000 increase in grant revenue and expenditures related to that grant. Okay, moving on to non-general fund, there was an increase of $7 million in both revenue and expenditures. The most notable adjustments, the first one, mental health has a $4.57 million increase to the transfer line and a corresponding increase to contingencies. They were just moving funds from their MHSA account into their operating account. Capital improvements, there's a $300,000 increase in revenue directly related to the project cost that we discussed earlier. CDBG has a revenue increase for unbudgeted revenue and then $225,000 in expenditures, which are to include project services within that account. County Capital Fund, there's a $925,000 increase to transfers in, and that's related to that unanticipated prior year revenue in the 2 winter storm accounts and that $160,000-ish in general fund excess to move into the county capital account. And again, we usually use that account to fund the next year's capital assets in the general fund and capital projects. Integrated Waste Management, they have the $300,000 transfer of their fees to their CIP to cover the 3 CIPs they're putting in. And then they had $137,000 increase to unanticipated contract that they needed. Road Department has $898,000 increase in revenue, $219,000 in reimbursements to county departments, and then a modification to their contingencies to put that extra $670,000 related to the change in contingencies. Okay, so that's the end of department recommendations. Staff is recommending that the board provides direction regarding any changes you would like incorporated into the mid-year budget package. That the board approves the mid-year budget adjustments with any modifications that you guys would like. And then additionally, as you know, we've just now starting the fiscal year 26-27 recommended budget process. Instructions will actually go out to departments within the next couple of days. And it officially kicks off March 1st. So admin staff requests that the board provide any direction if you have any specific items that you'd like to provide direction on relating to that. A couple of things that come to mind are continuing the hiring freeze in the general fund and requiring exemption forms if we want to stick with that. And then also the TOT allocation if we want to keep the historical sheriff, fire, roads, and CVB break, or if we want to do some other method of allocation for that. So with that, I'd like to thank the Board of Supervisors for receiving the presentation today and department heads for all of their work putting forward and actually minimizing this budget cycle request. All fiscal staff and departments, human resources for closely working with us on positions. The auditor's office for being a pretty consistent sounding board working through fund issues, and then information technology, which is helpful with all the background budgeting within the finance system. So that concludes my presentation.
Any questions by board members?
I have a couple questions.
Okay.
Going back to general fund expenditure actuals.
Yeah.
I don't want to get blindsided in June because of the winter storms that we're having now, and they're pretty compared to the other ones that we're still looking at. You brought up here.
Yeah.
I think we need to keep track of the money going out for that.
It is being tracked by a JL code, which is a project ledger that we use to track in the finance system. And right now, estimates of costs that haven't been incurred yet are also being tracked on what is called an IDE that goes to Calaveras, which is the initial damage estimates. That's for county costs, and actually non-county costs are also being tracked so that we can see what the totality of the disaster is. So.
Yeah, but that's still funding going out. We're looking
It
to
is.
get state, federal money to come back in because we declared an state of emergency. So money, it just depends on when that money is going to come in. We're still waiting for some of it on those other storms.
At this point, we don't have a state or federal declaration, so no reimbursements would be
Well, that's true.
anticipated.
That's absolutely correct.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, that could affect come in, our reserve coming
Yeah.
in. So I just
If
want to make sure we keep an eye on what's going on there.
we absolutely are, the sheriff's office and our office have been working in coordination to make sure that we're keeping track of it with the jail.
Okay. And then I completely agree with the TOT, not spending any of it. We're only about $50,000 above what our projections were at mid-year and our total year. We don't know what's going to go on now. So we could be in a position where our budget was more than what we had coming in. So we could have a deficit, and that's general fund dollars too. So I think we need to keep an eye on that also coming into the next fiscal year. And I just want to bring up also that I know you were talking about distribution of the funds that we usually do. I want to bring to the board's attention again that Caltrans is doing a project here in San Andreas for the highway. And part of that project involves landscaping. And that landscaping, after 2 years, will become, the Caltrans will take care of it for the first 2 years, but then it becomes the county's issue. And we had a projection on that, which was some kind of substantial a little bit. But they reduced it a little bit because they're putting parking spaces because the county asked them for pressure on from Main Street going down towards Court. So there's going to be reduction there, but still we have to come up with those funds. And I want to look at maybe opening an account and maybe putting some of the TOT funds over the course of the next 3 years into a separate account. So when we take it over, we have some funding already in place and we're not just hitting whatever we're going to look at for general funds to take care of that landscaping. So it's just something that we can look at coming June if there's any excess in TOT. From what we budgeted this year, maybe some of that can go into that fund, just to create a fund going forward. When we take it over, we're not just slammed with it. So I will bring that back up in June.
Okay.
That's all the questions I have.
Any further questions? Mrs. Fullwood?
Well, I guess my question is, you also looking for direction from us? Okay, so I kick it off. I stand by what I said last year and I'll continue with this year since I think it's simpler to start from what staff has recommended in the past. And so I would like to see some of those revisited and brought back in front of the board.
I'd be willing to consider this.
Okay.
Any other board members? No parks? I'm gonna hit Jeffers.
Hit you up for snow removal equipment. That's this century.
This century? This century?
Yeah.
I don't have that moment.
So could I request on Miss Huberner's behalf? She brought up the TOT and the traditional split. So the traditional split has been between fire, public works, and sheriff and CVB. But over the past couple of years, your board has included the chamber in that. They've made another request for this year, although the first year it was indicated that it was a one-time support. But since they've requested it, is that something that you would like to see us include in the budget upcoming?
I think with their request, it was originally a one-time support, but when I believe I was part of what framed it. I know Mr. Toffanelli was part of it also, but it was an interest of picking up more so on the west side of the county marketing, where
I want to be a part of this.
and I'm stepping away from saying the wrong thing so you can sit here, so that other areas may continue to do what they do best. So with that, yes, it was framed as that as one part, but I think we broadened the discussion at that time. So just Miss Hitchcock.
So is the direction that your board would like us to include it as part of the upcoming fiscal 26-27 budget?
I would be one to say that that would be part of one of our things to consider, yes, included for consideration as one. Unless anybody says no.
So do you want me to leave that amount in contingencies and then the board can have a discussion about how to allocate that funds in? Or do you want me to include that amount?
I think it's all up for, at that point you can put it in there, but either way. However you frame it, Denise, the request is out. So consideration is, and then the board will decide whether they want to in or out.
Okay.
So I would say write it in as a potential cost and we can say no or yes.
And I think seeing all the considerations, particularly closer to actuals where we know where we stand and where our priorities need to be.
Well,
I would like to see,
we don't see actions until too late.
well, closer.
I mean, I'm still concerned about state and federal grants coming down.
Right.
And we're gonna be more and more dependent on this fund than we have in any other year.
That's why I
And so
mentioned that.
I wanna,
Yeah.
It's consideration. Ms.
That's
Fondorf.
why I
Yes.
mentioned we could leave it in contingencies and the board could allocate at the time at which we know normal fund balances, but it's still in that account. It's not going anywhere, but
Yeah, completely understand. And moving forward, also, I'd like to say that that's fine. Either way, we can make the decision at the time.
Yeah, I'm in agreement putting contingencies if we can decide at that time. It doesn't have to be a whole $50,000. It could be whatever that. Because we don't know where TOT is going again, is what we just talked about it.
Yeah.
And we don't know at the end of this year what it's gonna look like, and we don't know going forward next year. So I think just my opinion is put in contingencies, we can have that discussion at the time. Whether you want that full amount or you want part of it or whatever. I think that's open for discussion, obviously, but.
so I'll allocate the historical split of sheriff, fire, CVB and public works MOE amount, and then I'll put the balance in contingencies to discuss the maintenance, right, project in San Andreas, the chamber project, the fire true up and any other
Potential.
Okay.
Yeah, no,
Thank you for that
absolutely. I think that's the best thing is consideration because we're living in a fluid world. So I
Okay.
think I agree with my colleagues for the most part. Also, discussing those TO2T disbursements, the fire chiefs have reached out to me. Typically in the past, pitchforks and torches out there during preliminary budget, don't take it to. And it's something I had a discussion with them years ago. It's like, you guys are waiting till the last minute after the fact and like playing defense. Why aren't you being proactive? Rich Dickinson, Mike Johnson, and one of the other fire chiefs, they want to be a more proactive approach and work with you on it. And I told them I would relay the message.
We're happy to meet with them and let them know what we're recommending to the board.
And I'd just like to mention that while being proactive is great, until we see final fund balances, we don't even know what there necessarily is to distribute.
Right. But that's being fair, and us understanding that that's their intention is to, at the same time, their intent to collect.
Well,
is it going to be at the last minute?
Yeah, I think they're wanting to just try and get a heads up for their budget versus waiting to the end when they come in here for our budget. Then they got to go back and so they want to meet a little bit before.
Proactive.
So we historically have told them that we give them our budgeted figure for the upcoming TOT revenue. We just have historically told them that we can't budget the true up, until the board directs.
We're willing to meet and have a discussion beforehand. Sweet, perfect. And then it is what it is when we get there.
Okay.
Perfect. Anything else, Ms. Holdorf? It looks like your hands up.
When I say pass, you're gonna include the Cal Fire dispatch, right?
Yeah, it's paid for out of a different account. Yeah.
So I have one other question to Teresa, CEO. You 100% stand behind this that's been presented to us today?
Absolutely. I have the best budget staff on the planet, so.
Here's part of it, a major component. Denise, good job.
Thanks.
We appreciate the fine work you have done for us and continue to do it for us. I also, was there something else other than?
No, I was going to thank Denise too for
All right.
she's had some other things, trying to put this together and some other things happening that it's been very stressful, I'm sure. But thank you for finishing it and getting it to us.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Navigating through all the fires is a consistent thing that you've done. I've seen in the past. So thank you. Also, I have one question on here. I don't know if it's 100% right. Because it doesn't make sense. Yeah, insurance. How did it go down about $500,000? How
Liability.
I mean, that doesn't happen with insurance.
So what happens with our insurance, when we budget our insurance, we're given, so like right now, they're giving us estimates and we're only given estimates. So I have to make a best guess effort. And then we budget what we think it's gonna be. And then when it's trued up after recommended budget, then that's when we make the adjustments.
That's the difference.
Yes, and we have received some subsidies back, which was the over 126 million, 126,000. So by doing things right, then we're getting subsidies back when we are performing better than the other counties in the pool. And so we have received some significant money by doing a good job.
On that one.
Yes, knock on wood.
Please, and then, yes, thank you. I appreciate it. Also, there's savings in possibly open positions that add into that also.
So the insurance, no, the insurance was strictly the savings on what was budgeted and subsidies that we received.
Phenomenal, thank you. I just don't usually intend or expect to see anything like that on the insurance line. So I was impressed. Public comment?
We have no online public comment.
Any staff have anything for us? You're content. I'm not going to ask if you're happy. You're content. All right.
Chris, you're good.
I'll talk to you. Anything else? Board members? Denise?
Thank you.
Thank you, Denise.
Need a motion?
Yes.
Yeah.
We don't need a motion, we have to vote.
But
I was working towards it.
okay.
I'll move.
Kinda. I was navigating around it.
Did you move?
I did.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. 5/5. Hey, we're gonna take a quick break.
You can leave it.
And that's all I'm gonna say.
12 o'clock.
Okay.
Welcome back to our regular agenda. Stacy, can you take us to our next agenda item, please?
Item 28, action item, Administrative Office approve the organizational transition of emergency services functions to the Sheriff's Office effective March 1, 2026, and 2, approve the budget modifications necessary to effectuate the transition as detailed in Attachment A, requires 4/5 vote.
4/5. Ready, set, go.
Okay. Good afternoon, Chair, members of the board. As directed at your January 27th board meeting, today we are presenting the formal transition plan for moving the disaster response and recovery functions of the Office of Emergency Services back under the Sheriff's Office. This presentation has been prepared jointly by the County Administrative Office and the Sheriff's Office, and we appreciate the board's direction and support as we've worked through these details. Today, we'll walk through the background of the transition, the benefits of the proposed structure, how duties will be divided between the Sheriff's Office and the Administrative Office, the post-transition operating model, and finally, the budget framework that supports this change. As a reminder, OES was moved out of the Sheriff's Office and into County Administration in 2017. Since that time, the department has experienced significant leadership instability, 5 directors over the past 8 years. This instability has real operational impacts, including inconsistent grant management, delayed or incomplete deliverables, and compliance challenges. Currently, OES has only 2 full-time positions, both primarily funded by grants. Those grant funds are now at risk due to compliance issues and delayed reporting. Despite this limited capacity, OES is responsible for FEMA disaster coordination, grant administration, EOC operations, preparedness and recovery, and the current structure simply cannot sustain these responsibilities. At this moment, both OES positions are vacant. However, even if filled with only 2 positions, the department cannot support full-scale EOC activation, long-duration disaster operations, or after-hours response. This creates operational vulnerabilities for the county, especially during holidays, if we have illness, turnover, or major incidents. The current structure is not resilient enough to meet the demands of modern emergency management. On January 27th, the board directed staff to begin the formal transition of the emergency response and recovery functions of OES back to the Sheriff's Office. We were asked to evaluate operational planning, budget preparation, ordinance updates, and position review. Today's presentation reflects that work and outlines a clear, sustainable path forward. Should your board approve this transition, the ordinance update and position changes are requested in following agenda items. Transitioning the response and recovery functions of OES back under the Sheriff's Office provides several key benefits: stronger emergency response leadership, clearer accountability and operational lanes, continued focus on prevention, preparedness, and resilience, no loss of service to the community, and importantly, it positions the county for future emergencies and funding opportunities. This structure strengthens both our immediate response capabilities and our long-term planning. This transition aligns emergency response under public safety leadership, where real-time incident coordination and situational awareness are already core functions. It also ensures continuity in preparedness, mitigation, and recovery planning while clarifying roles and responsibilities across departments. Under the Sheriff's Office, emergency services will be supported by a much larger pool of emergency-trained personnel. This enhances support for EOC operations, logistics, field operations, and recovery. The Sheriff's Office also brings stable leadership, improved grant management processes, and stronger documentation and compliance practices. Most importantly, it ensures 24/7 readiness and integrates emergency services into established emergency command systems. Under the new structure, the Sheriff's Office will take primary responsibility for incident response and coordination. This includes EOC activation and management, duty officer services, emergency notifications, operational area coordination, public alerting, mass care and sheltering, and school district emergency coordination. The Sheriff's Office will also manage response-focused grant programs, including the Homeland Security Grant Program and the Emergency Management Performance Grant. They will lead planning for future disaster recovery and take responsibility for future local hazard mitigation plan cycles. The Administrative Office will continue to lead risk reduction and resilience efforts. This includes wildfire mitigation, fuel break planning and maintenance, tree mortality and forest health initiatives, and drought resilience planning. The Administrative Office will also maintain responsibility for watershed and flood risk reduction projects, debris management, forest maintenance agreements, and closeout of past disaster recovery efforts. This includes the compliance audits and reimbursement documentation for those past incidents. To ensure continuity, the Administrative Office will complete the current LHMP update cycle. I believe you heard Ms. Huebner say that we have that funding budgeted. After that, the Sheriff's Office will lead future LHMP updates, and the shared approach ensures uninterrupted FEMA compliance and maintains the county's eligibility for mitigation funding. This table summarizes the division of responsibilities after the transition. The Sheriff's Office will lead emergency response, EOC operations, and 24/7 monitoring. The Administrative Office will lead preparedness, mitigation, resilience projects, and community outreach. This model creates clear operational lanes while maintaining collaboration across both departments. To support this structure, we are creating two functional budget units. The first is the OES budget under the Sheriff's Office with two full-time positions responsible for emergency response, EOC functions, duty officer services, operational area coordination, mass care and sheltering, and future disaster recovery. The second is the disaster preparedness budget under the Administrative Office with one full-time position responsible for fuel mitigation projects, vegetation management, community outreach, non-emergency grants, drought resiliency, and closeout of past disaster recovery efforts. This slide provides the combined cost of both budget units. While the structure changes, the overall cost remains aligned with current funding levels, and the transition positions the county to better secure and manage future grant funding. Historically, the general fund contribution was about $250,000, but last year exceeded $600,000 due to delayed reimbursements and canceled grants. You just heard Ms. Huebner comment on that. Poor documentation and missed deadlines have impacted revenue, and a $151,000 grant was terminated on February 4th. The cost difference for this structure for 26-27 is approximately $91,000. So that concludes my presentation on the transition plan. I'm available to answer questions, and I know that Sheriff Whiting is also here with her team in case there's something that she needs to address for the board.
Thank you, Ms. Hitchcock. Board questions? Ms. Fulmer.
I have one question. On the list, under the sheriff, it lists FERC. Explain that.
Energy.
As far as what the FERC is?
I know what FERC is, but why is that under you and not administration? And I get like the damn safety protocols and things like that, but we also have other things happening in the county with FERC renewals. You know, we talked about it at camera. So I feel like there's also an overlap, and I want to make sure there's clarity with what your function is on that list versus what maybe another, whether it's administration or planning, you know.
We do appreciate it. It's not as much of a contentious item because the FERC EAPs are updated by each individual, agency and organization that oversees them. And we're involved more in reviewing the drill down on the call lists and the call outs and the notification channels and the flood inundation, the impacts and stuff like that.
Can we maybe reword that?
It's up to the board on the structure. We have no problem continuing to be involved with it. I'm also confident that even if it isn't clearly defined under one of our agencies, that we are working extremely well with county admin and knowing that the analyst position in their office and the sergeant and the new emergency services analyst in our office will continue to work and just make sure, even if it's not fully one way or the other, that we're gonna make sure that it doesn't fall through the cracks and we work together on it.
Okay, I just wanted to clarity because
Yeah.
I came up at camera the other day and just, you know, it's just, it's a loaded, it's a loaded, thing. And they got it. I don't know what it's an issue.
Just like I said, with the
But-
complexity of
yeah,
incidents, if we need to, the scalability, if we need to ramp up on one side, or as we move forward, this doesn't have to be an absolute set in stone. We will be constantly reevaluating on what's working and what's not. And if we do need to make any other structural changes, I'm just gonna keep talking because Teresa's shaking her head yes. So, then we'll do so. We'll bring it back to the board.
Okay, no, thank you. And I think that, thank you for answering that because I think it's good for the community to hear that response. Because I'm sure there's probably other confusion. I understand it. There's the DMC, there's all of those protocols and emergencies, but then there's also like the administrative side of things that are happening. So you know, because I'm constantly like, hey, Teresa, did you get that FERC update on certain things that had nothing to relate with what you have to deal with on?
So I would say that there's multiple facets to the FERC issue. I think on the emergency response side of it, it's probably going to be more with the sheriff's office, but there are some other things that have to do with the county being aware of what they're doing in their licensing that our office may need to take a greater role in. So I do agree with the sheriff. We're in constant communication. Her team has been fantastic to work with. I think with the level of communication that we have at this point, that we're going to be able to work through these things pretty seamlessly.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons, I mean, we did want to be fiscally conservative as with any approach that we're going to take for spending public funds. But when we did the staffing analysis and the funding analysis, we debated on, is it going to be the same 2 FTE structure that was in the existing OES? Or is there really a need for an analyst in our office, an analyst in administrative office? And although it does add an FTE, it really clearly what we have dove into over the last month and what's been going on, it's very clear that needs to be. We also analyzed the costs of, for if you choose to vote for the funding structure as proposed, we analyzed the cost of a sergeant compared to a lieutenant, and a sergeant comes with overtime, a lieutenant doesn't unless there's extenuating circumstances to allow administrative overtime. We went through all of those things with county admin and doing this full analysis to bring this to you today.
And I thank you for your work. I just wanted to make sure there was clarity so someone, like I said, out in the public doesn't cancel a notification that Teresa, the more the merrier that have access to it. But I just know I asked Teresa a lot about book stuff that's happening that's completely unrelated. So I just want to make sure that
I appreciate any evaluation to reduce our workload at any time.
It's not gonna happen. And FERC, as with anything else, with other agencies and across the county, there's so many facets that, they're all gonna be they're all gonna be mentioned or touched on at one point or another throughout this type of emergency preparedness, and just understanding that from the point of putting through an SOP for DR, disaster response protocols for a dam and everything. It's, it touches on every agency across the thing. And as we're doing it through the Department of Dam Safety at the state level, along with at federal levels. So, yes, we got to say FERC.
We do have to put it in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, the county's already moving in the right direction with the digitizing of flood inundation integrated in GIS and all the other topics. We're up to speed, but we understand, like, it's been 10 years since we had OES. There are topics that we are gonna have to bring ourselves up to speed on that was outside of our lane, so, but as you can see, and I'm sure although you aren't able to vote on who I assign to assignments, this will fall under Captain Sturm as the operations commander with the new dedicated personnel. I think he's very proven through this event. I had planned on putting together Gary to answer all your questions as to how is this gonna work, but I think we already did that today. So I knocked all of those topics off the table just to answer questions instead.
I just had one quick question, and that is there a proposed timeline to when you feel that you have this all up and operational?
How fast can you vote?
Yeah, we're planning to transition it March 1st, so very quickly.
Can you do it sooner?
One piece that you're about to consider here is changes to our ordinance, and obviously that'll come back for adoption and then won't fully take effect 30 days later, but I think the other pieces will happen much faster.
Yeah. Interim. Jared? Anything as of this moment?
What you're asking for the remainder of this year, 4 months. It's $152,200 to cover the costs for employee benefits and salaries and services and supplies. And then next year, when it comes to the budget, you're going to be asking for $495,000 plus an additional $91,000 to cover the costs. And that's between now and then we get grants.
No, so the net general fund draw that you see there is the actual cost that we've been expending. Those are things, that's what the additional is the 91,321, and that is basically the extra FTE that we're adding.
All right.
Showing a structural change in the item line. Right. Now that's for the sheriff's department.
Correct. It's just dividing it out between the two budget units. And so taking that cost and then the additional is the 91,000.
And the negative.
So Ms. Hubner took care of the other issues with the OES budget during the budget discussion earlier today. This is going forward. We were trying to separate it out so that it wasn't showing huge increase that really isn't there, that it was some other things that were affecting the budget.
I'd like to just add the budget transfer form attached to the item outlines the change that needs to happen in addition to what was presented at mid-year for the current fiscal year. It's approximately about 65,000. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, right now I'll entertain any public comment or anything online.
We have
Chris?
no online public comment.
No, you're good. Thumbs up. Thumbs up from Chris. So bring it back to the board. And yeah, no, the next one's considering any changes to the ordinance, right?
So we have ordinance changes and then position changes related to this transition following this item. So
Right. So yeah, this is just moving forward. Okay.
I'll move item number 28.
Second.
Presented.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear her motion.
I said I'll move item 28 I currently presented.
And I said, I'll second that.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. You got your 5/5.
Thank you.
Next item, please.
That would be 100%.
You sure? I want you to write that down.
Okay.
We're having too good of a time, Ms. Simpson. Can we move on to the next item?
Item 29, action item, administrative office, introduce, waive first reading, and authorize summary publication of an ordinance amending Calaveras County Code, Chapter 2.72, Emergency Organization and Functions.
So as Sarah indicated, these are the ordinance changes required in order to facilitate this transition. And this is the first reading, and we will have to bring it back, and then it'll take effect 30 days after we bring it back.
Hold on one second. It's not a public hearing.
No.
Okay, I just double check
No,
it because
we did include a red line just so that the board and the public can see the changes that are being made. They're actually relatively minimal. It's just to clarify that the sheriff, going forward will be designated as the person the individual who can make a disaster proclamation in the board's absence.
or who in her stead? Is it Chris?
The sheriff
The deputy.
can designate somebody if they
The undersheriff?
For the county EOP, we do have a continuity of government succession of plan all the way through several ranks.
Right.
Just in case we all go down.
I'm asking for the public's benefit right now because
Chris is my man.
right, it's in there. It's in there. Personally, I'm comfortable with all the changes being as it's pretty straightforward and simple. Unless anybody caught like council making a mistake in there somewhere. No? With that, I'll entertain public comment.
We have no online public comment.
And that means nothing in the room also. Bring it back to the board. Any discussion or a motion?
I'll move.
We have a motion by Supervisor Hubbard.
Okay.
We have a second by Supervisor Fullendorf. All those in favor? Aye. 5/5. 100%.
I only needed 3.
Right? Well, you know what? Yeah. If I take away mine, that's less 3. Next item, please, Ms. Simpson.
Item 30, resolution, human resources, adopt a resolution authorizing changes to the position control list associated with the sheriff's office and the Office of Emergency Services, adopting position adjustments and new job descriptions effective March 7th, 2026.
Ms. Clerk, can you please read the estimated time this is going to take?
Yes.
0 seconds.
Okay.
I would like that amended. Before I vote.
Judy Hawkins, Human Resources Director, and I'm bringing before you, as discussed in the previous items, the changes to staffing for the move of the OES division to the Sheriff's Department. So we are asking that we do delete the position of Director of Emergency Services and then change the PCN of the Senior Department Analyst so that they are under a clear disaster recovery division. The Sheriff's Department is requesting to add 1 sergeant that will be dedicated, and then also the classification of Sheriff's Emergency Services Analyst. And I believe those are the changes that we are requesting. Any questions?
Questions from the board? Everyone looks fairly content. Public comment.
We have no online public comment.
Excellent. I'll come back if there's no further comments or anything. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move it.
We have a motion by Supervisor Andal.
I'll second.
We have a second by Supervisor Toffenelli. All those in favor? Aye. 5/5.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow. I don't know how. You did, that almost seemed like 0. Not your introduction to time. With that, Sheriff, Undersheriff, appreciate your time. Get back on it, I would hope. All right.
Supervisors announcements. In compliance with Government Code, Section 53232.3D, board members shall provide brief reports on any meetings attended at the expense of the local agency and may make any other announcements or report out.
I'm gonna refrain from making a try on move right now. And Mr. Toffenelli, can you?
I have nothing to report.
Right, Miss
Nothing to report.
Handel?
I attended strategic planning meeting yesterday, and I just wanted to remind the community that the Moke Hill Lions is putting on a health fair this Saturday from 9 to 4 at McCallum Hill Elementary School, free to all.
Say hi to Ray.
Last week was just eaten up by the storm, but I was able to attend with Supervisor Andal the strategic planning yesterday, and I'd love to remind everybody that Caltrans is having a meeting. I mean, the median sort of seems like centuries ago now, but we are having a meeting with Caltrans.
So you can get down to it through the snow.
Exactly. Michelson at 6 to 8 p.m. tomorrow night.
Excellent. CSAC, done, check. Other than that, I just want to thank staff and everybody for all the good work coming up to this point. We're only at mid-year. And we have a lot of work to go through this fiscal year, and then we get to start all over. So thank you, and I look forward to the work as we move forward. With that, I'm not adjourning. We're recessing into closed session, and I will have a report out from last closed session before we read them off. Ms. Simpson.
Thank you. A report out from the February 10th meeting. Item 1, pursuant to Government Code 54956.9D2, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, 1 case, significant exposure to litigation. Board action, no reportable action taken. Item 2, pursuant to Government Code 54957.6, conference to county designated labor negotiators Teresa Hitchcock and Judy Hawkins regarding the following employee organizations: Calaveras County Public Safety Employees Association, Calaveras Management Union, Calaveras Supervisors Union, Deputy Sheriff's Association, Service Employees International Union Local 1021, Sheriff's Management Unit. Board action, no reportable action taken. Closed session agenda items for today, February 24th. Item 31, pursuant to Government Code 54956.9D1, conference with legal counsel regarding existing litigation, Maxwell versus Calaveras County et al., Calaveras County Superior Court Case Number 22CB46415. Item 32, pursuant to Government Code 54657B1, Public Employee Performance Evaluation, Title, County Council. Item 33, pursuant to Government Code 54657B1, Public Employee Performance Evaluation, Title, County Executive Officer. And we have no online public comment.
You all have a good day, and we're going into closed session.
Thank you.